11th, 2020. Please rise to pledge allegiance to the flag. Please, I got to get my flag on.
Yeah, where's your flag?
Okay, here it is. I
pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing, please, to honor all our servicemen and women serving our country both here and abroad, past and present. And please remain standing to keep our heads bowed and honor all our healthcare heroes, every one of the frontline workers. God bless them all.
Amen.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to do a roll call tonight, so first thing I'd like to do is give Sean McGinnis the authority to sign the warrant. So we need a roll call. So those in the affirmative, please answer yes or no. Mr. Tattlebaum?
Yes.
Mr. Gracie?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Herron?
yes.
Mr. Mickelson, yes, you have the authority to stamp and sign the warrant.
Thank you.
Okay.
I don't see John. Is he on there?
John's, well, he's right on my left. Yeah, I
right
see.
there.
Yep, so
I got him.
Not on
So-
my screen.
unanimous decision to sign the warrant. Appointments, 603. Marijuana Host Committee Agreement Vendor Review Presentation. We need to vote on it. It's an application to award a host community agreement. Welcome. He's right on my left. Yeah, so I don't have any audio.
I got audio.
No,
I
I
can
do,
hear
but I don't hear anybody from,
Oh, well,
We can hear you.
you can, all right, Patho?
Yep.
Therapeutics, who wants to speak?
Hello.
Matthew.
Hear me?
Hear you.
Excellent.
Yeah, just state your name, please.
Matthew Medeiros, the President and Secretary of Apatho Therapeutics.
Okay, so you have quite a presentation. I'm very impressed. And I know we have to go through this, and there'll be some questions, but you want to give us a little bit of an outline at this point. You don't have to be in too much depth, but just to give the people that are watching at home a bit of what your company wants to do in our town.
Of course.
There's no. My wife is telling me there's no audio at off of DCTV. Peter.
Yeah, my wife just said the same thing.
Peter. All right. Okay, thank you. Yep. Thank you. Yeah. It'll be recorded. So go right ahead, Matthew.
Apatho Therapeutics Dartmouth would like to open a recreational dispensary in the town of Dartmouth on 479 Fonts Corner Road. We aim to ensure a very high exalted experience for the town of Dartmouth, or community we plan on opening in, and the customers that will be locally around the Dartmouth area.
So you know that this is just the first part of the application, obviously, and you. This is our second time around. I believe, Mr. McGinnis. This is our second time around.
Yeah.
With,
Apatho had applied the first round, and they came back and applied for the second
right.
round.
Well, good for you. Any of the members have questions?
I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Herron.
Where will you be purchasing your product from?
We will be purchasing it from vendors in the state of Massachusetts. They can be provided to both medical vendors, but we have vendors ready for product as well.
There's enough supply for all the vendors coming online?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Anyone else?
I have a question on the host agreement. Is now the time to talk about that or later?
Well, we can ask a few questions now. We can talk about that after, John, all right?
Question?
Mr. Tattlebaum.
Thank you. Recognizing that there's an awful lot of laws to follow and well-written laws by the state, and you certainly have followed them by making this presentation, and you've got an organization that comes from all facets of be it security or supply, but this is your first venture. How much have you been able to rely on information or on-site of other organizations, how they're running, and to kind of replicate that and maybe even improve it?
Of course, of course. For the past 2 years, me and my brother have been going to various conferences and other entities as well to ongo and see their operations in terms of how they handle their security, their staff, and their overall compliance with the CCC and with other organizations in other states. We've seen multiple cultivators and retailers in this state, as well as states in California and Nevada as well.
And some of the people you brought on in the organization have had firsthand experience in this kind of operation?
Yes, actually, Connor Yost is here. He is the third-party consulting company that my brother and I, Andrew, have worked with consistently. He has been able to be in this industry since 2014, has the experience of opening multiple licenses and helping people open licenses in both cultivation and retail, as well as finances, operations, and overall compliance with the CCC since this industry has come into fruition.
Will he have an active role or a consultant from the outside looking in, or how do you perceive
Yes,
his role?
utilizing him in terms of operation and overall management in terms of guidance and advice. Yes.
Thank you.
How about security, Matthew?
We have here Nancy Sheldon. She's our director of security. She has extensive experience in overall retail, running in 3 different Macy's retail in terms of overall theft prevention and overall maintenance of security as well in all those areas. She has extensive experience in the Seacon Police Force as well.
I also noticed that you have committed to hire Dartmouth residents as much as possible in this facility.
Yes,
It's good. It's always a good thing.
always. It's always good to help them.
It is. Anyone else? Mr. Gracie.
Thanks, Dan. I know in some of the other situations around the state, people have set up delivery service. Is that something you people plan?
Well, delivery services are actually eligible on May 28th. That's when the applications are coming out. And we have already had meetings previously on delivery services. However, Apotho Therapeutics, as a retailer and as a non-social equity and economic empowerment member, cannot partake in the main management of a delivery service. We would have to contractually have a delivery service as well.
Because I was going to expand on the security part of it and find out how you would deal with security if you're doing deliveries.
Of course. For security, for instance, say if we were to sell product to a delivery service specifically by CCC guidelines, there has to be a body cam on those individuals, as well as two-way communication between the dispensary and the overall delivery, as well as having overall scanners and ID identification for people they are delivering to, is what the regulations are currently today.
Do they require guards to make sure that you don't get robbed en route?
Well, as my understanding of the regulations, there has to be, with the body cams, there has to be more than one individual in the car to capture what the instance is occurring, so that they can go back in the recordings and overall.
Okay, thanks.
But that not necessarily would be a guard. He's just another hired hand.
Yep, not necessarily a guard. This is all taken by a separate entity, and that will be contracted with Apotho Therapeutics overall.
Right, and that entity would also need to have a host community agreement with the town.
Would also have a host community agreement with the town, yes.
Great. Anyone else?
If the delivery company had to have a host agreement, would that cut into the 3 host agreements we have with the town?
No,
I don't believe that it would, because that is separate. So that would be a separate host agreement. That's just for delivery. It's not for retail sale. The retail sale would come from another entity with the host community agreement.
I've never heard of a host agreement for a delivery yet. This is the first time I'm hearing of this.
Oh, go ahead, Matthew.
This is the first time the state plans on implementing it. There were first talks the beginning of last year, but this is the first time, based on the COVID ramifications and restrictions as well, that they were been thinking about implementing this to help small businesses.
Any of the other states, are you aware, have deliveries?
California, Colorado, Nevada are aware, as well as I believe Florida is implementing it as well. But the main is actually the West Coast.
Yeah, I think Colorado did it first.
Yes.
Mr. Tattlebaum.
The timeline you submitted needs to be pretty much updated and redone.
The timeline we submitted in this presentation.
Well, the one that was submitted to us for the meeting, not the
There are a few response. Yes, that timeline's changed a little bit because of this COVID situation.
So that was simply the one we were going to meet at some point in the past, but that has to be now. This has been updated now. That has to be redone. The timeline that we presented in our packet.
Correct. But yeah, we had hoped to have Apollo Therapeutics before you in February, but
Okay.
with what's going on, it took this much time.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Gracie.
Excuse me. Yeah, I don't want to spend too much time on delivery, but just something that popped up in my mind. If you get to the point where you do have a delivery service, is that a dedicated delivery service to you, or is it like a Grubhub where they can work for many different service places?
Each delivery service has to be contracted to a single dispensary only.
Okay, thanks.
Interesting. Anyone else? Mr. Herron, any other?
I have a question on the community benefits. It's like $85,000 a year for 4 years. And it seems to me that it would be, we would be committing to three things, parks, health, and public safety.
Yes.
Will we be locked into parks, health, and public safety not as the distributor, but as ourselves? The reason why I asked that, if I had $85,000 today to use, I'd be giving it to the, Council on Aging.
So I can answer that question, John. It's $85,000 for FY20 and $340,000 per year for the following years.
Yeah.
That money we dedicated to those entities: Health and Human Services, Parks and Recreation, and Public Safety. It's up to the board. They can decide which year, which entity receives the funding, or if they want to break it up three ways each year. It's really up. It's the board's. It's the town's decision.
But not town meeting.
No, it's the select board's decision.
Correct.
Right, but we're not locked into parks, health, and public safety right now. We could change that to,
Correct.
as you said, cost of Council on Aging.
You could split it however you want between those three items.
Thank you.
Especially now that times have changed. So when that was written, obviously we were not going through a pandemic. So I can understand that. Anything else, Mr. Herron?
That's it for me, thank you.
Anyone else have any questions? Well,
If I could just add, Selectman Mickelson, I just want to thank our host community agreement review team, our internal team that did a lot of work reviewing many of these RFQ responses, and also taking a lot of their time and effort to really do a detailed review of all the materials. You can see that just this one response has a lot of material in it. They reviewed many. They really put a lot of thorough research into this project. So along with me, it was Greg Barnes, the Director of Budget and Finance, Deb Wender, the Director of Development, Christine O'Grady, our Director of Planning, Dave Requena, our Director of Inspectional Services, Deputy Chief James Story, and also Cody Haddad, who is our analyst intern, who really did a lot of work for us, a lot of the legwork, a lot of the research. So he was really involved and did excellent work on this. So I just want to thank that group. They did a great job.
okay. Mr. McDonald.
We were sent a presentation slide, I guess, what they were going to show the board. Are we going to see that? Because I know under normal circumstances, we'd be sitting in a room face to face and we'd be seeing this versus here, the people that are watching this or will be watching this on review really have no idea what this is all about, other than a retail store that is other than the location of Fons Corner Road. They haven't seen what we've seen, the voluminous packet that's in our package. But I know the slideshow that they had, the presentation, can at least kind of give people an idea of what this is involved and what it's going to look like.
I was going to suggest the exact same thing.
Well, it can also be posted on our website. Is that correct, Mr. McGinnis?
Yes, definitely.
Because it is quite large, but if somebody really the packet it's a wonderful job. As I said earlier in the beginning, you did a great job to explain things to us, to the layman, pictures, explanations. This must be 300 pages, and a lot of work.
I would agree that I think this short slide presentation, maybe a quick review of that to give us an idea of give people in the public out there an idea of the size of the building and what's going to be, and just a brief synopsis, I think would be a great idea. I agree with Frank and Sean on that one.
So are you capable of doing that now, Mr. Medeiros?
Yes.
Are you capable of just doing a little overview with a slide presentation?
Of course, if you would like, I could share my screen and do the presentation so the public can see it as well.
Yeah, sure. That's wonderful.
Can everyone see my screen?
Yep, great.
Everyone can hear me well. Excellent. So first and foremost, thank you to the Select Board in the town of Dartmouth for having me and my team here today. Today I'll be going about our overall mission, our team, our proposed site, the interior operations as a whole, the security, the operating procedures, our timeline to open, the town benefits we will be providing, as overall a summary for Apotho Therapeutics Dartmouth. Apotho Therapeutics is dedicated to producing and distributing high quality products while also transcending exclusive experiences for every single one of our customers. Our entire mission is to provide unparalleled service to both our customers as well as our community. Apotho, or APT, has 3 values. Our acuity for researching and understanding the science of cannabis and its cannabinoid derivatives for customers. The philosophy of hiring locally and also hiring diverse demographics and backgrounds to create a unity by diversity culture so that everyone, no matter what background they come from, can go toward a main goal of serving its community. And finally, tenacity, ensuring every single customer not only grasps the facts of our products, but also receives a personalized experience for what they like about cannabis products and guidance for use as a whole. Our leadership is headed by 3 people. My brother, Andrew Medeiros, the CEO, is an experienced leader with the Apotho team, has experience in education as a professor, and will excel in areas such as customer education, dispensing best practices, as well as including and unifying the Apotho team as we continue. Oversight will be headed by myself, the president and secretary of Apotho Therapeutics. My background is in biology and biotechnology, with extensive experience in laboratory research and oversight, but also mainly management roles in chemical manufacturing and pharmaceutical and biochemistry research and management as a whole. In that process, I've learned the safety and efficacious manner of hiring and managing staff. Connor, as mentioned previously, is the director of Nucleus One, is a third-party consulting firm that, again, since 2014, has been in this industry and has experience in business operations, financial management, and compliance. We plan on using Connor and his team for overall on-site oversight and ongoing management at the dispensary through the startup phase and during operations as a whole. We also have Stephen Lima, who unfortunately cannot join us today. He is our finance and treasurer. He is a CPA and MST with over 40 years of experience in financial management of various privately held companies and public accounting firms. He as a whole will ensure that our municipality programs and enhanced business-to-business processing programs are not only by CC standards, but also efficacious and beneficial to the towns. Our compliance or general manager is Ronald Case, he is here today. He has been a community leader for decades in experience in assisting at-risk incarcerated adults and youths at risk, as well in recent years working as a general manager for a local fitness company where he's not only provided jobs and internships, but vocational training to employees with special needs, as well as several other members. Ron has extensive management experience and will be conducting all medical experiences at Apotho Therapeutics Dartmouth. Nancy Sheldon, as mentioned previously, is our security director. She has served in numerous security and asset protection roles in the retail industry, as well as serving as a public safety sector. Currently, she serves as a manager of asset protection across 3 Macy's department stores in RI and MA, and will be ahead of our security for Apotho Therapeutics Dartmouth. Overall, this is seen by the board, but for the public, this is a 5,000 square foot proposed site on 479 Fonts Corner. Overall, it will have 2-way accessibility and ample parking of 35 spaces on the site. The building exterior, we have nuisance mitigation protocols and programs in which a traffic study was completed, and only an ample of 77 more vehicles will be going through this area, which will be easily handled by the 2 lots, which I will be explaining today. Overall, our operation manual includes that lights will be set and illuminated for the safety of people parking and walking on the public sidewalks of Dartmouth, as well as mitigating noise and traffic waste policies as set by the standards by the town of Dartmouth. Our odor mitigation system, which we plan on putting inside the building, is a carbon filter to ensure that any odor and smell is captured by carbon molecules inside of this filter. It is not exacerbated outside of the building, so all smell stays inside of the dispensary. We will also have secure loading and unloading dock systems to create a man trap for all products going in from other cultivation facilities to ensure that no access can be obtained from outside of the dispensary or authorized members as a whole. The building will be backed 100% by a generator, which means our security systems will be uninterrupted for power supply no matter what the weather throws at us. Also, the exterior signage and visibility as a whole are in and will comply to CCC standards as well as the town of Dartmouth standards as well. Over operational layout, we will have 14 POS systems and ample space for customers. If COVID regulations and restrictions still go 10 months from our proposed plan of when we plan to open, we will actually be open every single other register with 6 feet of social distancing space and markings on the floor to ensure that we will comply with future regulations upon opening if this persists. Also, if COVID does not, we are able to open with regular restrictions and guidelines. We will have customer flow guided by our floor layout. We will have customers waved down upon entering by each associate, and will easily mitigate all foot traffic flow. Also, we have secure delivery and storage vault accesses, so no product will be able to be accessed by a customer coming into the store. I will be further going into the store's overall security processes in a later slide, but overall, the security cameras will be covering all 360 degrees with alarms, glass break sensors, and dual access control for officers inside of Apotho Therapeutics Dartmouth. The second floor as a whole will include interior office space that overlooks the dispensary. This is what we plan to use as management-only staff and overall corporate admins for Apotho Therapeutics in our other locations as well, but primarily Dartmouth. The leadership at this dispensary will ensure that the integration overall with the community and charities will be implemented from this office as well. I want to walk you through our sales process as well. A customer will first enter in through a secure vestibule, or a man trap, if you will, in which they will give a verified ID, which will be scanned by a receptionist. And upon verification that ID is 21 years or older, they will be released or buzzed in, if you will, to the sales floor. They can then go in two directions. First, they can go into the regular sales floor. They have queue lines in which they will be able to access all of our registers and be able to be helped in product selection and verification of their ID again when they're at the registers. Once they choose a product, the sales associate will then process the transaction and they will proceed to move outside the exterior security vestibule and leave in the exit only door. The second is for foot traffic mitigation as well that we'll be implementing, which is online ordering. This online ordering process will also, upon entry, be put in a queue in which a sales associate will scan the ID, and that ID will coordinate with their online order. The online order will then be tracked and processed through this, and they will also be grabbed the online order, give it to the customer, process the sale, and the customer will leave out the same door as a regular customer coming in without an online order, which is secure. Inventory. Inventory overall will be handled by our inventory manager. This will be purchased ahead of time at each cultivator to ensure no short of supply. Once ordered, it will be shipped and received, and it will go into the man trap as previously discussed. This man trap will make sure it is secure and no one outside or unauthorized can access this. In terms of transferring from the vehicle into the loading area, items will be counted, weighed, and compared, in which they will either be accepted by CCC standards of quality and overall purity, or rejected. On rejected items, they will go into the metric system, which is a CCC standard programming for tracking all inventory standards, and they will be returned to the supplier, and it will be noted and documented. If it is accepted, it will go into the metric system anyway and go into the Apothotherapeutics vaults, in which the vault will go into the sales floor no more than 1 hour prior to opening to prepare for high foot traffic. Also, these items will also be used for online ordering processes, and it will track who ordered what, and that will be processed from the vault onto the sales floor as well, and for customers selling items. All unsold products at the end of the day will be locked and secured back in the vault as well. Overall security, again, there's 24/7 security coverage in this location with on-site interior and exterior during all business hours. There will be video surveillance coverage capturing both exterior and interior processes, which are limiting products, storage, cash registers, and also waste disposal as well in compliance with this. There will also be continuous interior and exterior security monitoring to prevent theft and overall diversion. And finally, again, there will be secure delivery for storage areas with limited access and uninterrupted surveillance to ensure compliance and safety. The overall site parking, if you see on the left-hand side indicated lot 1, that is our dispensary location with 35 spaces for customers. Also, on the right-hand side, you see, this is our secondary lot with the cameras that has 360-degree view. This is an additional 29 spaces where if deemed high traffic areas is too high for flow, we will have employees park here and proceed safely on the sidewalk to the dispensary before operating hours, and we will assure their safety to the dispensary. Lot 2 is an example of the proposed site on the other side, and this is not for Apothotherapeutics use, but a general overview and spatial variation of where we're going to be in this area. The overall interior security, I will walk you through. Second, I'm sorry. So essentially, can everyone see my arrow?
Yes.
So essentially, this is the man trap and vestibule I was talking about. This is where customers will walk in. They will be on camera here for tracking purposes in case anything happens with a weapon of any sorts. Upon entering, they will go into the sales floor where they will be tracked with 2 360-degree cameras. Upon entering, if any cases permit, if this happens, that an individual walks in intending to harm anybody on site, there are, if you see every other register, panic buttons that are be directed to not only our security officers, but also to the town of Dartmouth police as well, so they can have immediate contact times and respond times. Also, you see there are cameras behind all the POS systems. This is for tracking inventory and overall cash management for our employees to not only ensure compliance, but safety of products and overall monetary values. There are also obviously two bathrooms we hear in compliance as well. And the most important thing again is our secure inventory tracking and processing system. We will have alarms and overall security measures as well, tracking with cameras. Each window as well, you can see here, will have alarm systems in case broken. And the traffic flow will go, that they will walk in around the dispensary and leave out the exit only. This is our upstairs security. A general access or important item to note is that this area is not to be accessed without an authorized card for management, so that customers and or staff employees that are not incorporated with Apotho's overall management process will not be able to access this area as well. Apotho and Nucleus One together have developed comprehensive SOPs and guidance documents to exceed regulatory standards. On the right-hand side, you will see a list of every single one of our dispensary protocols and SOPs that we have implemented over time that will be ready by the time of opening, if not have already been completed as a whole. These detailed procedures will provide details for all staff to focus on compliance, safety, and overall security. These will be implemented for agile training and increased staff accountability for Apotho Therapeutics and the safety of the community. Our overall staffing plan, we will be able to hire experienced and knowledgeable individuals in this industry. We will have special efforts again to hire locally in the town of Dartmouth, while also including other diverse demographics as well. They will be thoroughly trained in excellent service and education, as well as going under other programs that have been newly implemented in the industry to ensure ID verification and overall product accountability. Overall, an important notion to have is the floor staff plan, which will consist of 10 individuals and seasonal floor staff consisting of 4 individuals. These will all be shift-based positions, and we will make sure that foot traffic is highly regulated with the amount of staff that we have on the floor regarding a COVID regulation or not. Our overall timeline is as follows. We hopefully plan to have all meetings and approvals for the town by this month or next month permitting. We will then apply from the CCC portal. Luckily, since Apotho Therapeutics has already applied for another location and is ongoing in that, our overall background information is relatively the same, and our overall process will be a lot faster since we do not have to go through new background information as a whole. As you can see upon the timeline, we plan to have an open for sales by December or February Q1 of 2021. Our overall construction will be permitted by 2 groups. Ken Steen, the individual, will be factored in the exterior of the building, while Valiant America, who is in this meeting as well, will be doing the interior with Apotho Therapeutics as a whole. And as you can see, we hope to have the timeline finished by January to be open for January or February, permitting on how things are going with COVID regulations and how fast the industry is going as a whole. We plan to keenly identify candidates in October to be amply ready for opening. Overall, we plan to hire various full-time employees. However, we most importantly plan to hire 50% of our staff in the town of Dartmouth by employing from local communities and being 43% higher than the minimum wage of Massachusetts for our bud tenders, especially at $18.26 an hour. We'll be able to reinvest this back into the community of Dartmouth as a whole. As mentioned previously, we have benefits for the town of Dartmouth. You see the chart on the bottom left. This is our overall forecasted revenue and how we plan to distribute the fees. A very important factor is actually our charitable contributions. 10,000 of this will go towards marijuana and other drug education as well to the community as a whole to ensure the knowledge about these products and about other products and the safety of the community as a whole is of the highest priority for Apotho Therapeutics. Overall, for the site construction, we plan on to incorporate sustainable practices and technologies, as well as implementing waste management and water conservation to meet town ordinances as well. We plan to be as environmentally friendly as possible with corporate policies and renewable material usage. Overall, low emission technology and alternative transportation strategies will be implemented as seen fit. Overall, we are keeping up with market trends. Right now, we are in this ever-changing time due to COVID, trying to keep up with as much market trends as possible for the industry when Massachusetts opens back up for recreational sales. Overall, these products will be packaged and branded with CCC compliance to ensure the safety of individuals under 21 are not enticed to get these packages. We keep these packages in CCC compliance to ensure that only members of 21 and older will be able to use these packages, and no one younger will be enticed to use these. So essentially no colors or other cartoons in these packages as well, as you saw previously in my outline slide. In summary, Apotho Therapeutics plans to bring experienced staff from Plainville to Dartmouth, as well as using Nucleus One for experienced setup at this site. Overall, again, we are committed to hiring locally and 50% of full-time employees from Dartmouth, and we will work closely with the fire department and police department to ensure security plans and procedures. And again, we estimate a 10-month timeline from our application submission to our grand opening. We thank you so much, and we are open for questions at this time. Thank you.
Very nice. Thank you very much, Mr. Medeiros. Any questions, gentlemen? Mr. Gracie.
Thanks. It's not really a question. I just wanted to compliment you folks on the package you put together and also on the presentation. You make it very clear. And I appreciate that. So thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Tattlebaum?
A couple of small questions. A great presentation. Thank you for that. The second location you're working on is going to open sooner or after this. Could you expound on that?
We first submitted for a Plainville location in September, and we plan on opening in July or August of this year.
And
Yes.
finances won't be an issue for your second location?
No, we split our finances to fund each entity separately.
Thank you. And last question. I think it's a great idea. You have the extra parking in the back, but being a retailer myself, are you prepared with these two parking spaces? Prepare you for, let's say, a mega grand opening where you have issues of out on that Fons Corner Road of parking and cars and congestion. Will those two, in your mind, if it's that big, take care of that problem?
Of course. So one of the things that we've actually planned on for even Plainville that we plan on implementing in Dartmouth as well is what you have to do is you have soft openings to have people understand, you understand the traffic flow as well. And then from there, you have a gradual grand opening. If you do one grand opening at once, you'll see similar trends in the industry when it started of these massive traffic buildups, right. Not very efficient for the town. So if you have soft grand openings at first, especially limited to one or two, you're able to see the traffic flow and understand how the traffic flow works before you have a massive grand opening.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? So we need to take a vote on the marijuana host agreement, a community host agreement with Apotho Therapeutics. We'll take a roll call vote. Mr. Tattlebaum.
Yes.
You need a motion first.
Oh,
Thank
sorry.
you. Make a motion that we sign an agreement, a host agreement between the town of Dartmouth and Apotho Therapeutics.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. McDonald, a second by Mr. Gracie. Mr. Tattlebaum.
Yes.
Mr. Gracie.
Yes.
Mr. McDonald.
Yes.
Mr. Herron.
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson, yes. Affirmative, all five. Thank you very much, and congratulations, and good luck.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having us.
Yes. Good luck.
All right. I see everybody dropping out.
See what we have now. Next.
Crowd.
Here comes the parade.
Whole crowd.
Let's see.
Is this town meeting?
This could be.
Just practice. Practice for the town.
Hey, Gloria.
He is supposed to be here.
Hello, Bob. Okay.
Peppy.
Yeah. Terry.
Boy, look at everybody. Nice.
We ready to start?
Doesn't
One
everybody,
second. I just want to make sure everybody's here.
doesn't everybody show on the screen? I'm getting about half.
Well, you have to move it over to. I can't look at everybody at once.
Go to a gallery view.
I did that.
No, I pushed the wrong button. All I got is Stan.
No, you don't want that.
No.
Quiet over there. All right.
I can tell you one thing. Everybody's got interesting names on their little screens there.
All right. So I want to thank everybody for this momentous occasion where we have a meeting of this sort, and, with a joint meeting with the school committee and the finance committee and the select board at our homes, safe and sound, I hope.
Carol.
So who would like to?
Mr. Chairman, before we move on, I think we should have each member of the boards, everybody knows who we are, but as far as the finance committee, I know there's some new people on, and people looking at home, if they notice, everybody has a little name under theirs, but there's some people that don't have the full name, so people at home don't know exactly who they are. So if the chair of each board can introduce their people, or at least start, and then they just raise their hand so everybody at home knows, or whoever's watching at a later date knows who you are.
I was going to ask that same thing. So
Yeah, you will have to unmute.
I'll call the finance committee to order.
go ahead.
My name is Terry Ham. I'm the chairperson. Gloria Bancroft, do you want to put your hand up? Co-chair, thank you.
I'll give you a call.
We have Lou Garibaldi, Bob Garvin, Brian O'Hare, Beppy Weedcopper. Is that correct, Beppy? Yep, okay. Jeff Raymond and Adam Silva. Adam is not feeling well. He might just be listening in tonight. And then Janine Simmons is Janine. So we do have 3 new people. Do you want to have the school committee go, Stanley?
Yeah, why don't we do that, Chairman?
Okay.
Madam Chairman?
Thank you. My name is Kathleen Amaral. I'm currently the chair of the school committee, and I have with me, if you could raise your hand, my Chris Oliver. He is the vice chairperson of the school committee. And what else do we have here? Dr. Shannon Jenkins is here. Dr. Carol Karafotis is here, and John News.
I'm up here.
There you are. Hi, John. And we also have with us our superintendent, Dr. Hiley is here. There he is in my bottom corner. He's our assistant superintendent of business and finance, right? Finance and operations. So thank you for having us.
Welcome all. So, Teresa, would you like to start this?
Sure. I want to say thank you, as you did, Stanley. This is an unusual situation, and I really appreciate the help from DCTV and also from Greg supporting 3 new members to the Finance Committee who we've asked for a lot of information in our process this year, and he's been available for all of that. So as Finance Committee members, we recognize that we're the oversight board to the town meeting, and I know that the select board has counted on us to do the detailed work in reviewing the budget proposal in the past, and we did that despite we had 4 meetings before we were interrupted with the COVID orders. So Again, we really relied on DCTV and on Greg and Sean to get us the information that we needed to finish out the process. And you had a chance to, I guess you received the draft warrant rationale and the cover letter. One of the things we've talked about, I know for a few years in the Finance Committee, is trying to do some kind of cover letter to the town meeting to give an overview. And we were able to accomplish that. Again, the committee, it's a great committee. They ask a lot of questions. They have a lot of ideas. Everybody on the committee has been willing to take a piece of this and work on it, and that's been really nice. And in our discussion, there were a few areas that we spent a lot of time on. You'll see in the votes, so I'll start at the beginning under Schedule A. We had a long discussion on the position of youth advocate, and we can answer any questions that you have on that, but we tried to explain in our lengthy rationale where we were coming from on that. We were concerned about Schedule A, the operating budget, even before this pandemic, because we were looking at a reclassification study that changed the salary structure for many people in town, settlement of many employee contracts, and we were forecasting a tightening of the budget before this happened. So you can imagine where we are, in light of this. We appreciated the policy that was put in place in terms of a hiring freeze and a freeze on non-discretionary spending. And in our support for the budget moving forward, we hope that continues. That's our recommendation, because we are very concerned about where revenues could be in the next budget year. Not so much finishing this year, but in the next year and then the year after that, we're very concerned. And we had some concerns about the social day program at the senior center, and we can explain more of that if you have questions about that. But the biggest thing, I think, is that given the situation that we're in, we're recommending that we meet with the select board for the next few months to look at the status of the budget. We, as we said in the cover letter, about 30% of the revenues we are anticipating come from sources that are pretty much frozen up right now. So we don't know where this is going to stand in the future. And everybody on the Finance Committee feels strongly that we should check in with the select board. We know we only have another town meeting in the fall, but before that time and before any further consideration of capital spending, we really think that it's important for us to check in and have a plan to move forward not in a reactive way. And for that reason, even though we recognize the limitations of our role, we have a very significant responsibility to town meeting to say where things stand. And it would be helpful, I think, we all think, if the school committee and if the select board could give some advanced thought to how decisions would be made in the event that a budget cut was necessary, if there were reductions. And I know people have been thinking about that because we've had a lot of conversations with school committee people already. And I will say, this has been said before, but the school committee did a great job with ramping up for this very unexpected process we find ourselves in. And so we have had a chance to talk quite a bit, but we would like to ask both the select board and the school committee to do some advanced thinking about how decisions will be made if that happens. So given the draft that we sent out to you and the cover letter, if you have questions about any of those, let's have a discussion about that. I might answer questions, or other people on the Finance Committee might answer, depending on what the questions are.
So anybody that has a question, just raise your hand, please, and I'll acknowledge them. No questions? Oh, Mr. Telephone.
I would like to first say that I look at the screen here and I see many past and present members of the Finance Committee. Finance Committee is an interesting place because you spend your time looking at numbers and deciding things based on a lot of black and white. And when it comes time to institute programs that have no black and white left for them, it has to do with what's almost right and wrong. I think the letter that was written and how the approach was made was an approach that I think is the absolute best way for our Finance Committee to approach the town's finances, to integrate thoughts at a time when the process is early on, take advantage of their delving into detail, and then making decisions based on facts and then trying to make a decision that ultimately works right for the most amount of people in town and what's affordable. I applaud the Finance Committee, what they've done, how they've done, and I look forward as we go forward as soon as possible to work on these details of saving money in places where we can save it and be more efficient, and maybe even have to look at certain positions and programs that need to be looked at, but do it in a way that's has a lot of logic and a lot of detail to it, as opposed to making it after the fact or too late. Thank you for the work you did.
Thanks, Mr. Tattlebaum. Anyone else? McDonald?
To be honest with you, it's pretty much cut and dried with the Finance Committee recommendations. For the most part, it's pretty much unanimous decisions across the board, with the exception of a couple here and there. Specifically, the explanation on the 5-3 vote on the budget is, it's pretty much cut and dried as to why, that was there. Really don't have anything much to say other than, appreciate what the time that they spent on this, going through all the information. I did it for 3 years, many, many moons ago. So it's, sometimes it's not a task that's totally appreciated.
We have 3 members of the select board that are former Finance Committee members. And Mr. Gracie.
Yeah. As one of those former people.
I'm sorry. I missed one. It must have been you, Frank.
Yeah, I've had to miss. As a person that spent a lot of time over on the Finance Committee, and I know how much work it is, and I want to just say I appreciate the work they've done and the summary they've put together. It really is quite comprehensive and easy to understand. So thank you very much for all the work you've done.
I guess, Stanley, I would ask about, because we need to agree to meet. Pete, do you think
I was just going to mention that.
In favor of meeting? And then the second request, which is, I don't know what process you'd follow, how you'd get together to do a plan in terms of approaching any necessary budget cuts. But that we wanted to mention that just so that we're not in a reactive situation if we get to that point.
I would imagine we need to isolate the things that will stick out right now that could be a problem, and let's look at those immediately. And I'm sure maybe we could have a small group get together and meet a few times, and then have both boards meet if you want to do it that way. Mr. McGinnis, maybe we could do that. Talk with Terry and see what things are troublesome as we can see today. That will be troublesome as we move along. This is going to be an incredible 2 years for us. It will not be easy.
I agree. So I meet with Mr. Barnes weekly to review the finances, but we will schedule a meeting monthly with the Finance Committee, and also probably in August with the Select Board. I would recommend having another joint meeting because that'll help us, and we may be doing it monthly as numbers start to come in from the state level and local level of where our revenues are at.
I think we might want to meet earlier than August.
We can do.
Seems to me, I don't know the date yet, but August seems to be too late. Mr. McDonald, please.
I was going to suggest, I know Mr. McGinnis and Mr. Barnes meet on a regular basis, especially on the finances, but there's no reason why Sean and Greg can't meet with Jim from the school department, and get the 3 of them together and basically just write a synopsis of the meeting and send it out to the 3 boards. So at least we have an idea on a regular basis as to what's going on. And then as far as meeting with, having another one of these meetings, I think probably a quarterly meeting is probably a good point. As long as we get a monthly update as to what's going on and how the finances are, I think that should be more than enough, at least getting an idea. And as far as developing any kind of a plans or any kind of contingency to look at budget cuts, I'm fully confident in the three of them coming together and coming up with some kind of at least a scenario as to where, where things can be done or what can be looked at and how the revenues are coming in and how that's going to shape that kind of information and that kind of discussion.
Ms. Ham?
And can I add something?
Oh, yes, Ms. Jenick.
So I know Mr. Kiley, will be able to work with Mr. McGinnis and Greg Barnes on, that. But I also want to make people aware of that one of the complicating factors on the school side is we have no idea what school is going to look like in the fall. Our buses, at the elementary school level right now, I remember when my kids were little, there are 2 or 3 kids to a seat. That may not be possible, right? We may need more space. So it's really going to be quite difficult on the school side because we don't know what school looks like starting next year. And so, we can put that together, but I think there's even more uncertainty because our business may not look anything like normal, right, in the next fiscal year. And it's really hard to make predictions about that. And I know that we have a lot of that in the community. But we're going to have to look really seriously. Like if we can't run, buses are a significant expense for us. If we can't run them the way they do and they double, and then we have to look at cuts elsewhere,
You might have split sessions.
It's going to be very difficult because there's so many things we don't know about. It's not just what's coming in, it's what's instruction even is going to look like next year.
You might even have split sessions.
Yeah, we don't know anything about that.
Mr. O'Hare.
Yes, Brian O'Hare. Hello, everyone. I'm a new member. This is why I think we need monthly meetings because the situation is going to be quite fluid. And just as you explained, Ms. Jenkins, that's why I think we have to stay on top of it, anticipate, and think about options going forward as things develop. I don't think we can wait. I don't think we can wait 3 months to talk.
I agree. Yeah, Mr. Tattelbaum.
I would suggest that we can't wait as well, but I would suggest that one member from each of our committees join the 3 staffers, and then it would be that person's job to report back to the committee at meetings. There's a lot of expertise in the room, and I'd be happy to volunteer myself to be part of that meeting. But I think that we need to do it regularly and report back to our committees, and then take action quickly if need be, because we'll have our ear right to the ground.
Yeah, it's important that we do that. Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
It's not a question of if we're going to have a problem. It's a question of when. Greg has outlined to us that 1 year from now, we are going to be in dire straits. And when we accept all the contracts, we're going to be even in bigger trouble. We have serious problems coming at us over a year from now.
I want to echo what Mr. Tattelbaum said in terms of the and we might consider that as a finance committee. I would need to talk with people, but it has been helpful to our committee to have kind of touch-based conversations with the chairpersons of the different committee as we move forward. Sean and Greg have opened themselves up to meeting with us regularly, and I think it's very helpful to keep the communication open. I think the biggest issue will be the response from the different boards as we learn more information. I know that we have uncertain revenues in the town. There's certainly going to be an impact on state revenues. We don't know what that is right now. Jim Kiley has talked about this concern in previous meetings. So until we know more, we won't be able to do much. But as a finance committee, I've only been involved for a few years on the finance committee. There are people who are on the finance committee, and some of you who went through a very difficult time in the past in Dartmouth's history in terms of responding to budget deficits. And what we would like to do, everybody on the finance committee wants to be supportive to Dartmouth, wants to make sure that we make decisions in a planful way, that we're not reacting and slashing things. And so what we're asking for the school committee and the select board to do is to give some thought and to be prepared to make decisions on that. We recognize we'd be just recognizing the deficits and saying, this is the situation we're in. How do you want to respond to that? And it would be Sean and Greg and the other boards that would need to be responding. So that was the main point that we had. I want to go back to the rationale. So there were no questions on the decisions that were made or some of the concerns. The concern about the social day, for example, was that they requested a waiver of the indirect costs this year, which we could not approve because that would apply to many other boards. And that is just kind of a red flag that they're having trouble sustaining their program for a number of reasons. So we're recommending that a more thorough examination be done of that program because it obviously provides a valuable service. But if it's not sustainable, that has to be recognized. The question about the youth advocate, any questions on what the issues were there?
Well, I'd like to hear from one person that was in favor of it and one person that was against, and their reasons. I know you wrote about it, but the people at home are not reading this. So.
We can do that. Gloria Bancroft is liaison to the Youth Commission, so I'll ask her to start. And then Bob, do you want to follow her?
Yes.
Okay, Gloria.
Sure. So, I mean, it's no secret that the position had been vacant for a year and a half, and there were many questions regarding what was going to happen in the future pertaining to that particular position. But in the end, when, ultimately we did know also that this select board had met with the commission, had made a decision to rework, or I should say redefine the position moving forward. And that process had been halted due to the pandemic. So we didn't see any final job description. We didn't have an opportunity to evaluate that. But at the end, what it came down to was that the youth advocate is not a new position. It's a vacant position. And that's an important distinction because there are other vacancies currently in the budget. We did, Greg did share with us that there's a cashier in the collector's office that's vacant. There's a fleet manager that's vacant. There's a position in the library that's vacant, an information specialist. So with those vacancies, it makes it a little bit different than a new position. Like if, excuse me, prior to the pandemic, when we met with the different departments, what I found was that there were many requests from different departments that were a little bit stressed out, and they were requesting to have new positions. We heard from Parks and Conservation. We also heard from Building. They were all looking for new positions. And then the pandemic hit, and then the hiring freeze went into play. And so, as Terry mentioned, with the budget going forward for fiscal year 21, we wanted to maintain staffing at a level position, so no new positions. So the youth advocate, again, not being a new position, but a vacant position, was a little bit different. And so we just felt that it was not our place to talk about eliminating one vacancy when there were others that already existed in the budget. So that's pretty much it.
Mm-hmm.
So Bob, do you want to, we were almost split. Do you want to talk about the other opinion?
Yeah, I wrote the minority opinion. I watched the select board meeting when the whole subject of the advocate came up. And so I'd just like to read my opinion and then just respond to something Gloria said at the end. It is the opinion of the dissenting members that the position not be included in Schedule A 2021 budget for the following reasons. One, the position has been vacant for a year and a half. Two, there are no plans to fill a position soon due to the financial pressures caused by COVID-19 crisis. And the soonest that position could possibly be filled would be a year from now. So that position would be empty for 2.5 years. At a recent select board meeting, the town administrator indicated that this position had not been filled because he found that when the last youth advocate left and the workload was evaluated, it was determined that the caseload was very low. The select board created a subcommittee to study the possibilities of expanding the job description so that this position would have a full workload. And this process has been put on hold due to the coronavirus. I also looked. I couldn't talk to anybody. I went to the websites of neighboring towns, and I found that New Bedford, Acushnet, Fairhaven, Mattapoisett, and Westport do not have youth advocates. So it's unique to Dartmouth. I felt that the town is facing a financial crisis and has created a tremendous amount of uncertainty of estimating revenues and expenses, and including in the budget a youth advocate position and associated expenses with demand for this service is very limited, and potential expenses going down the line of unknown. I think it's fiscally irresponsible to put it in the budget. So I mean, it got a lot of exposure because it was at the select board meeting, and I just like to address one of the things that Laurie brought out. One, we can't evaluate all positions. That's not our job. I mean, I think the school committee has certain positions, and they might have 10 positions, and they kind of can juggle their positions around. So, but this position is a line item on the budget, and with the salary, expenses, and the benefits, we're talking about $90,000. And if we can't cut one position on the budget going into this fiscal crisis, I don't know what we're doing. So I obviously felt strongly about it, and I wrote the dissenting opinion. And what I would like to, and I don't know if it's too late, but I would like to remove it from the warrant so it doesn't even come up, because it'll be a discussion point at town meeting, and if it goes on the warrant, that position goes on the warrant, I'm going to submit an amendment to remove that position. So anybody got any questions? I mean, that's.
So I think both people did a fair job of reflecting the discussion that we had, which was lengthy. It covered a few meetings, and the vote means that we're recommending that it be supported in Schedule A as it is. So that would be, we'll see what other people decide on that. I know that you haven't taken your vote yet, correct? On the articles?
Not yet. After this, after you guys leave, yeah.
So but I think we did a good job of explaining, and you can see where people are coming from on that. Apart from that, there wasn't a lot of discussion. There was a lot of consideration given to people's requests because, as I said earlier, the Finance Committee is very supportive of the work that the town is doing, and we want to make sure that we do the right job in making sure that work can continue. But I think that pretty much covers. I'll put it out to the Finance Committee. Anything else that you wanted to say?
Mr. Gracie first. Go ahead.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm usually a guy that talks about things that aren't pleasant, so I'm going to continue that. Let's see. We don't, as everybody has said, we don't know what's coming. Okay, but one thing we do know is there's not going to be enough money to support everything. There are going to be significant changes that are going to have to be made. We've already been warned about layoffs coming as a possible actuality. So one of the first things I would suggest is that all vacant positions now not be filled, because that helps in the overall goal. Furthermore, if any position becomes vacant, unless it's a critical position, we also not fill that either. And that can only help in the long run. But to me, that seems to be the right way to dig yourself out of a hole. There's no sense in making the hole deeper and then have to turn around and try and get out of the hole. So anything would be an easy thing right now, which is a vacant position, not be filled. That just makes sense to me.
And I think we agree. And as I said at the beginning, the budget that we support is with the assumption that the hiring freeze that you put into policy and the restriction on non-essential spending will continue, because that's how we were able to recommend what we did. We agree, basically.
Lou, did you have your hand up?
The social day program at the senior center, I was very naive about it. I was talking to some of the people there, and since it's not open currently, there is no social day. We don't know how long it'll stay closed, depending on what could be up to the summer or later, based on what what's going on with this whole disease problem. And so I know the town is supporting about 250,000, 258,000. And they, with no question, we have probably the best senior program in the country, at least in our region, I should say. And they do a great job, right? But if they can't get people in, can't sit down because of and whatever, they're just there's money building up, that isn't being used because the programs currently can't operate under the current situation.
Mr. Gracie.
Yeah, I want to be clear because I think social daycare is a different situation. That's not being used for a different reason. But if miraculously they were at a snap of a finger, everything changed tomorrow, there would be a need for that again. So I would not recommend that we forget about the social daycare. I think as soon as it's available to function, I would consider that a critical service and something that would need to be fit back into things. So I just want to be clear because to me that's not a vacant, not quote a vacant job. That's a vacant service because of what's going on in the world. So I agree.
I agree, and 100%. But it depends on how long this goes as a vacant program. And everybody wants it back, I'm sure.
So Kathleen, can I ask you a question? Do you have any questions for the Finance Committee, or in terms of future meetings? Did it make sense to you, the model of having representatives? Did your committee think it makes sense to have? I know that there's ongoing conversations with Jim and Greg and Sean McInnes, but does it make sense?
Well, I can't speak for the committee right now, other than to say that I found it helpful to be part of it, and knowing that Jim is in communication and reports back to us. It's very helpful, especially during this time.
Ms. Bancroft.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, we were talking about moving forward during the summer, how we were going to meet. If I heard correctly, it sounds as if, the Finance Committee will meet. And then I think Sean McDonald said that, maybe we could have a representative. So Mr. McInnes and Greg are always present at our meetings. Perhaps Jim Kiley and a member of the Finance Committee could also join us, and that would be the group, unless you think differently.
A member of the Select Board, you mean? And
sorry, yes.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Mr. Tattlebaum already volunteered.
Brian, do you have a question?
I would disagree. I mean, I feel that everybody here has a valuable opinion, and to limit it to one person from each committee to be liaising with a town administration, I think might be a mistake. So, I mean, I'll go with the way the majority wants to go, but I think everybody here has an opinion, and it should be considered. It's probably a very considered opinion on top of that.
I think that for our Finance Committee, I think we would like to meet, and I think that we've said that we'd like to schedule that. And then I think it's up to the Select Board to determine whether they, just send Mr. Tattlebaum and the School Committee send one person, or do you want more to attend? I agree that when we have a few people in on these meetings, we've had some good conversations, but I think it's up to the Select Board and the School Committee to determine how they want to participate. Becky?
Well taken. So would the rest of the board like to vote on that? Would you would like someone to make a motion to meet monthly with the Finance Committee and the School Committee and the Select Board? And it's up to you guys, whatever you want to do. Frank?
Yeah, let's see, I have maybe at least one suggestion. I think we could do a variety of different things. I think communication is what's most important. The last thing I want to do is be sitting in a situation and find out something about a week after it was a relevant problem. So I would suggest we set up something, maybe monthly is the right thing to do. Maybe we still have representatives go to have meetings if they happen more often than that. But I also suggest that everybody's name here, email address, be put on a master mailing list, and everybody get information as soon as it's available. And also that we could generate any ideas that come from somebody on one of the lists, one of the groups, so that everybody's aware of somebody else's idea, and have all ideas would become fresh that way, as opposed to waiting for somebody to deliver it to them.
That's an open meeting law. That might be an open meeting law violation if everyone's.
Mr. Nooms.
You can send out lists to everyone. You don't have to respond to everyone.
Mr. Nooms.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've been sitting here listening and people talking about, monthly, quarterly, that type of deal. I think, if we went every month to 6 weeks at the moment, I think we would be fine to meet in July. I mean, unless the state budget totally falls apart for FY21, there's not much there that we're going to be able to tackle. I don't think in July, as everything is just starting to get closed out from fiscal 20. You get into August and you start looking to see how things are running. You can bring in, you start your, every 4 to 6 weeks getting together, Mr. McGinnis, Mr. Barnes, Mr. Kiley, they're meeting, constantly and talking. I mean, if something hits the fan, it's nothing to sit there and say, okay, a week from Monday night, this is what's going on, and we've got to have a joint meeting because here's the major problem we have to address it at this point in time for argumentative sake, try to nip it in the bud if at all possible.
Right.
I would disagree. Let Beppy talk.
Well, thank you, Brian, and I just want to say hello because I too am a new member and I've been fascinated to learn more about how this town works and really appreciate the opportunity to help. I think there's so many things that we can already begin to anticipate. State funding in certain areas, the non-property tax, the sort of extra funding. We can do a lot of what ifs fairly soon. And we should also start, we don't have to wait till July to start saying, here's a couple of scenarios. What if the total revenues are down 10%? What if total revenues are down 20%? And which lines are most likely? You can almost pick 3 line items in the revenues where it's likely to go down. And if it does, what's scenario 1? Do we go to our rainy day fund? What's scenario 2? Half rainy day fund, half cuts. There's a whole bunch of things you can start thinking about sooner than waiting till it's actually happened, till the information comes. And I will say I've found the members of this committee terrific, of the finance committee, saying, what are the priorities? And I agree, because when you decide that you have to make cuts, is it across the board? Or are there some areas that we think maybe you could make some decisions to not buy new machinery 1 year or new vehicles because there is a lot of priorities that we should start thinking about before the crisis is known. We can start doing some what ifs, and I think I personally would like to be involved in that, at playing out some scenarios, because then we'll have a better sense of what's important to this town and how we want to react.
I'm still here.
I would agree. I think we have to be proactive because it's a fluid situation. And I think that going forward, we can't wait till July because we have to be able to think, otherwise we'll be reacting. We have to be proactive and think about what we might want to do so we maintain the highest possible services for citizens of the town given the fiscal circumstances. Well, I can't support, and I would be vehemently opposed against We have to have it on a monthly basis. And then if things turn out fine, we can suspend the meetings.
Right?
Mr. Barnes?
Yeah, I'm just speaking from an administrative perspective. We have already agreed to meet with the Finance Committee on a monthly basis to better educate them on our forecast in terms of expenditures and revenues. In terms of having a large group, school committee, select board, and FinCom all meeting together, I would caution you that initially we're going to have very little to share in terms of certainty, in terms of revenue and expenditure. The state has not given us any firm direction as to where they're going. Stuff like motor vehicle excise, we're probably not going to know until next January. Even hotel, motel, and other taxes, we don't receive those revenues until months later. So I think it's important that we do meet and do a monthly, but I just caution if we have some big group, I don't want to be just basically telling you what I'm already telling you now, which I can tell you in June and July, as John mentioned, there's probably not going to be much in terms of revelation. And certainly if there were anything, we would immediately share it with all policymakers.
Okay.
There'll be no surprises, I'm sure.
So we will
I
plan.
can't guarantee that, but if we learn of something, we'll let you know.
We'll plan to meet and we'll have further communication. I'll be in touch with the next chairperson. However we move forward, we'll be in touch with the chairs of the select board and the school committee to figure out how we communicate. Are there any other questions?
Teresa, sooner rather than later.
Yep. Yep.
Title
I have a question.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman?
Tettelbaum.
Will the Finance Committee continue to meet on the same nights that the Select Board meets? Not an issue, right?
We've been meeting on Thursday nights unless we
Okay.
need extra meetings. We've had a few
Okay.
extras.
I might suggest that I would like to attend that meeting, and my only goal there would be not to represent myself, only represent myself and bring back information to the Select Board as we meet on a regular basis. And I would suggest that maybe someone from the school committee be there along with the three the people who know about the finance of town than anybody. And I think that, is it necessary? Is it going to be productive every time? No, but I think it gives us a real handle on what we can then report back on a regular basis.
Information is what we need.
I also would add one quick thing about the youth advocate. I would like to find out once and for all town meeting support is for that position and wait for discussion at length. It's obviously not going to happen now soon, but let's hear what town meeting say about it and then move forward based on the input at the meeting. I had this conversation with Jamie from the Youth Commission. He agreed with me that thrash it out, find out once and for all, where does the town stand in this position? Go on and on about our own opinions. But in the end, what is our town as a majority?
Okay. What?
Okay. So,
Anyone else?
yeah, I was hoping that the select board would vote tonight to remove it from Schedule A, but that's not the direction that David's going in. So I will, it kills me to vote against Schedule A because we had to vote against the whole schedule just because of the youth advocate. So I'll put I'll talk to Melissa and I'll put in a typed up legal written amendment to make a motion on town meeting to not fund that position. But I would like the select board to vote tonight to remove it from Schedule A.
Will be under discussion. Mr. McDonald.
In the past, we've gotten slammed for not putting things forward to town meeting. This is a discussion that needs to be made at town meeting. And I will vehemently fight against anything against it. Let town meeting discuss it. And, we get nailed all the time. Oh, it doesn't come before town meeting, or nothing comes before us to a discussion. Well, something. This is something that needs to be discussed, and that's the way it should be. So anything to say to pull it out or whatnot, fine, Bob. If you want to put in a motion to remove it from the budget, it'll still be discussed at town meeting. So that's the whole deal. But this is something. It's going to go. I will fight any motion from any of my board members to remove it before it goes to town meeting. I'm going to vote against it because it should be discussed at town meeting.
Anyone
Okay, if
else?
there are no other questions, I'll entertain.
Debbie?
I'm sorry, but somebody earlier suggested that all positions, that you already choose to recommend that all positions be frozen until I really think that's a terrific, unless they're
We have a hiring freeze.
I think that's a great idea, and that would almost.
Right.
I would support that if the select board decided to do that.
Well, the hiring freeze is in place. We did that quite a while ago.
Yeah, there was a spending freeze memo. Oh, sorry. There was a spending freeze memo that was written by Sean and myself. And within that is a hiring freeze of all non-essential personnel, and also recommending no new non-essential positions for the upcoming budget. That was supported by both the select board and the finance committee. So,
And what is the expiration date on that, Greg?
There was
Okay, so that was our thought, that there was not an expiration date on that, and that is necessary in order for us to support the budget as it is right now.
You want a date, or are you saying you don't care if there is a date?
It doesn't
Open-ended.
Yep.
Right. Open-ended at this point. Yep.
Okay. All right, if there's no other questions, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Oh, there's another question, John.
Oh, Mr. Herron.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for the school committee. Are we paying for the bus contract right now since the buses aren't running?
I can speak to that.
Mr. Kiley.
So we are currently not. There is discussion throughout the state about this, including some potential legislation. We do have a contractual agreement and recognize that we would be responsible for some of the cost of the bus contract, but that is yet to be determined. So it's still being negotiated from community to community in the Commonwealth with some guidance from the state that's been offered. No legislative action on it yet, but there's also my understanding is there is a bill relating to it that is expected to be passed. So we will have some obligation, but not in full.
Could you send a copy of that contract to Attorney Savastano for his review?
Certainly, at the discretion of the school committee, I certainly could.
Thank you.
We should seriously look at it. Mr. Tattlebaum.
This is an indication. I don't think there's any more of a high priority for all of us in this meeting right now to understand that the unbelievable pressure that our schools and kids are right now, what we need to do for the fall to make this right. It's incredible what you have to do to accomplish to try to even get us ready for whatever's going to be for next year. And it's we give 100% full support to make it right.
I agree.
Anyone else? So would you like to allow Attorney Savastano to look at that contract, Madam Chairman?
What's the purpose of that?
I don't know.
Well, if there will be any future cost to the town, can we save any money going forward?
I'll open it to my committee. I think that. I thought somebody was saying something. Chris?
No, I'll just say I think we should take it back under consideration. Clearly, I have all the faith in the world of Mr. Kiley and our legal counsel. So I know that if Mr. Kiley recommends to the committee that for us to share it, that is something we can certainly do. But I think that's something we can take up at our next meeting.
Okay.
Good.
Mr. Nunes.
Yeah, I'm good. I agree with my colleagues, Mr. Chairman, and if we need to discuss that at our next meeting, we can do that.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn from somebody on the finance committee.
I know.
Epi, second. Who's seconding? Gloria? Thank you very much for the opportunity to talk like this. I think this has been a good meeting. I appreciate everybody's input.
Thank you all. Thank you very much.
Good night.
Great night.
Thank you.
Good night. Thank you.
School committee?
There they go.
Motion to adjourn the school committee meeting.
Second. Did you get that, Kathleen?
Yeah, sorry, I'm having issue with my sound.
So we need to vote out.
Yeah.
We got a motion on the floor by Shannon, a second by myself.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi,
Thank you very
everyone.
much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all for coming.
Take care. Be well, everyone.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Chris.
Thanks.
Kathleen?
Carol, John.
You're dropping off.
We'll wait for the screen to clear.
Oh, it's still an open meeting.
Kind of like whack-a-mole. Somebody drops
You
out.
can watch on
somebody
DC.
picks up.
You can watch on YouTube, John.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, on the screen to clear, it's going to be now.
What's YouTube, John?
Are you still there? No, he's gone. Okay.
Lou's got to clear out.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, I hear a lot of noise in the hallway. All right. That is.
Well done, Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry.
Well done. There's a lot of people.
Thank you all for helping. I appreciate all the comments. I appreciate it much so. All the appointments are done. Town clerk to announce date for town meeting.
Yes, so the town meeting is currently scheduled for June 2nd. With the state of emergency still in place, even if it was eased up on the 18th per the governor's date he has set, I just don't think that they would allow people to congregate large enough for us to have town meeting on June 2nd. So discussions with the town clerk, the moderator, and town council about setting a new date, whether that's appropriate. The reason why we wanted to postpone town meeting or have the select board postpone town meeting is that Lynn would need to send out the warrant this week, which could be done, but as it's very unlikely the meeting would be on June 2nd, we would need to repost the warrant and send the warrant out again 2 weeks before that was scheduled. In discussions we had today between Attorney Savastano and Clerk Roderis, we decided that it might be good for the board to postpone the June 2nd town meeting and to postpone the meeting until another date to be set in the future, but not to exceed June 30th. Yeah, that way it leaves it open. This board meets again next per discussions a few months ago where you're supposed to meet on the 26th unless town meeting didn't happen, which it's not if you vote, and then you would meet on June 1st. So that would give you June 1st to decide whether or not to set the actual date of June 30th or to postpone it longer. And Attorney
I think June 30th would be a good date.
provide more detail.
Right, and right now you have no legal authority to go beyond June 30th.
Right.
You have a charter that sets the town meeting date, but the Attorney General has generously interpreted an existing statute, Chapter 39, Section 10, to allow the Select Board, notwithstanding any provisions of the charter, to pick a date up to and including June 30th, as long as it's within the fiscal year. There is, as we know, some pending legislation. There's lots of pending legislation because of the COVID-19 issue. There is another existing statute which has been amended, which would allow the moderator to make, once the warrant is posted, to then move after consultation with the select board for 30-day periods, but not later than 30 days after the declaration of emergency is lifted. So right now it's May 11th. We don't know what's going to happen on June 30th. The governor said some things today, but not enough to give us much guidance. So the safe thing is we have some time. Obviously, June 2nd, Lynn would have to post immediately, and that's not going to happen.
Right.
So that'll give us some time, and who knows what legislation will happen in the meantime, and who knows if the declaration of emergency will be lifted by the governor by then. So,
Well, that being said, I would like to suggest that we consider June 30th. It'll be right after the town elections, hopefully, and we could get back to business. And if we had to postpone that June 30th date, then rightfully so, we will. But at that point, we could post it at June 30th.
right, but if you post it now for June 30th, then it's out of the select board's hands to repost it. It then falls into the moderator's hands as to whether or not she consults with the select board. She makes the determination based on a public health emergency to continue it for up to 30 days at a time.
It's up to the
And you may have some more, depending on some pending legislation, you may have some more powers that are granted to you between now and the next, till the end of the month or so, to kick it out yourselves and not rely upon the moderator. So you would be able to choose the date. So it's not imperative that you pick June 30th today. It is imperative because of Lynn's timetable that you say we're not going to do it on the 2nd. You can pick the 30th if you want to.
Mr. Gracie.
Thanks. I would make a motion that we vote to not have it on June 2nd and leave it TBD. And I would also remind folks that even if the state says some things are good to go, we're not going to get a quorum until it says so. Eventually, it's going to have to be as late as possible in order to get people comfortable enough to go sit next elbow to elbow with people, because we don't have a bigger place to have a town meeting. So for now, I would recommend that I would motion that we not do it on June 2nd and we leave it the rest TBD.
There is also, Mr. Gracie, there is also pending right now, the Senate passed it, and it's pending in the House, an act that would allow us to have a representative town meeting virtually, just as we're doing right now. We talked about it. We know it'd be a bit cumbersome, but Sean and I, Mr. McGinnis and I have talked about, and Lynn Medeiros and Melissa Haskell, about ways to make it less cumbersome. Because we do have concerns that we have a quorum of 152?
Yes. Yeah.
So we have a concern based on the age of it. A lot of our town meeting members and the large size of the quorum, that we may not reach a quorum if we have an in-person meeting.
You got to realize that by June 30th, once the election's over, June 23rd, our quorum could go up, because if we now fill slots that are open on town meeting, you could go up on your quorum.
Any other comments, Mr. Tattlebaum?
Is there any chance that the quorum number be reduced temporarily?
There's the pending statute that I was talking about, the pending act at the House, which has been passed by the Senate, allows for a reduction of a quorum of open town meetings, but not representative town meetings, and even then only by 10%. So even if they change it and it applies it to a representative town meeting, you're talking about cutting it by 15 people. And I've been saying this for a number of years, I think our quorum, or the number of town meeting representatives we have, is pretty high.
Yeah, I mean, we have a hard time having a quorum on a normal year, let alone
Exactly.
when you've got
I second Frank motions, TB, to be determined.
So we have a motion and a second to postpone the town meeting to be determined.
Cancel June 2nd, and to be determined on the future
Cancel
date.
the June 2nd town meeting.
You're right, Frank?
As it is in the schedule now.
Yeah, and to be rescheduled not later than June 30th.
Let's just do it in order. Let's cancel the June 2nd. I need a motion to cancel the June 2nd.
That was the motion I made.
Okay, yeah, but then, and you have a second? Mr. Tattlebaum, for that question?
Just to cancel the 2nd? Okay.
Okay, Mr. Tattlebaum?
Yes.
Mr. Gracie?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Herron?
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson, yes. So the June 2nd town meeting is canceled. Now we can have another motion to postpone the town meeting to be determined later.
All right, not later than June.
Currently not later than June 30th.
To be determined no later than June 30th.
Lynn, how much time do you need like, when would you need a determination if it's going to be on June 30th?
The warrant has to be out like 2 weeks before town meeting. And then I need like, the few days to print. So we're looking at June 30th. I'd say like I'd need something probably that week of June 8th, June 15th, the latest.
Okay. Mr. McGinnis, you said our next meeting is the first week in June, right?
Currently, tentatively a meeting scheduled for June 1st and June 8th.
So we should probably be discussing this on June 1st.
Yes.
We'll have a lot more information before then.
We might have a lot more by then, too. Mr. McDonald.
Why can't the warrant go out now? It's not going to change from now to the end of the June. There's no more articles that can be put in. You got all the recommendations. Why can't it just go out now with a date? With saying that the date for the June 2nd meeting has been canceled. That at the meeting of June 1st, the select board will decide to hold a town meeting. Not later than June 30th, and that you'll be notified accordingly after that meeting.
Because the warrant has the date on it. The warrant has the date of the town meeting on it.
And you're going to have different town meeting members if it's after June 23rd.
It does say the date.
Yeah, but how are you going to do that, Lynn? If you're going to send this out 2 weeks ahead of time, how are you going to do that?
Yeah, it's going to be the town meeting members that are there.
How are you going to send it to town meeting members 2 weeks before when the election is only 1 week before? Is that not going to work?
It's not.
Yeah, no.
So it would have to be before the 20th.
Because the warrant would have to go out, I believe, on Friday the 19th.
So the meeting has to be before the 23rd then.
Or after the 30th.
It can't be after the 30th. So the meeting has to.
Anthony, we don't really know all that yet. I mean, there's a lot of things. It's so fluid now, especially.
No, but I'm saying as we stand right now, it can't be after the 30th. Right.
But
so I'm just trying to advise you based on the law that's in place currently.
Right. But it's so fluid now. You got the governor that's going to make a bunch of suggestions coming up very shortly, and we don't know exactly where he's going. But I'm sure he's going to do what some of surrounding states are doing right now and relaxing the restrictions quite a bit.
I would.
That's why my
that motion. The second motion will cover it. We at a date to be determined, not later than June 30th. Period.
Right, but I think now we need to talk about not before. It needs to be not later than June 22nd because it can't be June 30th. Because if somebody new is elected on the 23rd, Lynn's already sent out the warrant to the wrong town meeting members, so it would have to be before the 22nd. Does that make sense, Lynn?
Right, but we still got to figure out if we can do it remotely. So if you do it remotely, are you just going to narrow it down to the budget and the FEMA warrant article that saying it has to be done before July? Or are we going to do all these articles via Zoom with, I don't know, because not all town meetings are going to be able to do it via Zoom. How are you going to accommodate those that can't, that are representative members of this?
Point well taken, Lynn.
You can participate on Zoom by telephone as well.
Just a regular dial-up telephone?
And maybe, I mean, we must have enough. We don't have enough resources that we can borrow from the school and get laptops to whatever town meeting members do not have a laptop, so they could use it or an iPad just for that purpose and then get it back from them.
I think they've given them out to the students. I don't know if
But you might just have people who don't know how to use a computer.
Great, Greg. Yes.
Yeah, I think you're going to have to do roll call vote on every single town meeting vote. So.
Exactly.
Right, but we talked about this, we can also group them. You can make a motion at the beginning of town meeting to move all articles. So you may want to just pick out the ones that are going to be controversial, obviously, like the budget, and separate that one. And if you have 7 or 8 articles that are all, CPC ones, all housekeeping, you could move articles 1 through 8 in one motion. So you're not doing 8 roll call votes, you're doing 1 roll call vote for all 8 of those articles.
Anthony, do we know what other towns are doing? Yep.
I was just asked the same question.
No. We're all asking the same questions.
And we need some leadership from the governor, and we're not getting it.
So we talked about being able to have the meeting at the middle school and seat people 4 seats apart, and there's enough room.
Yeah,
Or
and
5 seats or 6 seats apart.
And they can go all the way to the back, both
There's
sides.
plenty of room there.
Mr. Gracie.
Yeah, I don't understand why we just can't leave it at TBD. By June 1st, we'll have more information, and then we can work those details.
Because
Lynn's got to hop pretty quickly, and if you on June 1st, if nothing has been passed, if nothing has changed in the sense of, if anything, I agree with Mr. Mickelson, things are probably going to loosen up and open up. If he hasn't given us more powers and extended the the declaration of emergency past the fiscal year, we have to have it by June 30th by statute. And practically speaking, because our election's so late, we have to have it by June 22nd, because we cannot have a June 30th meeting with newly elected people who Lynn would have to have some ESP to be able to know who is likely to be elected on June 23rd to send out the stuff by, would you say, the 15th or the Lynn?
It should be by the 19th, by the
Right, so
19th of June, because that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,
I'll get you, Mr. McDonald.
9, 10. Yeah, that'd be the 11th day.
Right, so you won't know who's going to be elected because the election won't have taken place yet. So it needs to be before right now, unless something changes and things get worse and the governor extends the stay-at-home orders. I would say the meeting needs to be done before the 22nd or by the 22nd. What day is that, Lynn?
Monday.
It's a Monday.
Do we know dates that other towns are continuing till?
June.
No, I have a couple that are in early June.
Because I had one town asking.
I have one town we've moved a special and an
continuing to
annual.
the fall.
No, you can't. There's no authority to do that now. In fact, the authority to have the 1/12 budget that we talked about only extends until the emergency declaration expires.
Right.
So
it seems to me that we have hundreds of towns in the same position we are in, and it would seem logical that the governor would make some changes to make it more flexible. Time goes forward, but the need's not yet.
Well, he's got an awful lot of people pushing at him right now. All the other, all the towns. What did we have? 200 plus towns in the state.
Yeah.
It's not up to him. It's up to the legislature anyway. It'd have to be passed by the legislature.
Okay.
The act that was passed by the Senate and is pending in the House, the only relief it gives us is, as a select board, is it gives us the opportunity to have a remote meeting because it's a representative town meeting.
Right.
But if we make the decision on the 1st, that still gives Lynn enough time to get it out, even if it has to be before the
Mr. McDonald.
Right.
If you make a decision on the 1st to have it by the 22nd, then I have to get it out around the 9th or the 10th of June.
Right, so that gives you enough time. So we don't have to hash this out now. We can wait till the 1st when we have more information.
Let Mr. McDonald have something to say.
This is a public document. Why can't the people who are looking to be elected as town meeting members get a copy of it beforehand? This is not a secret document. Okay?
Because
wait a minute. Give it to them, because I'll be honest with you, I don't think there are that many people who are in any of the precincts where there's going to be more than the 13 per precinct. I think so why can't the people who are looking to be elected for the first time and those who are going to be on the ballot just get it? Because
Sean, you're going to have write-ins. We don't know who the write-ins are.
But I understand that. But the write-ins are going to have to let whoever the write-in. But generally, you don't have the write-ins validated for at least a couple days after the election, correct?
But they're still in time for town meeting. So the election's in April. They get notified.
In June.
They're all set for June.
Yeah, but
It's the election. I can't not.
She's got very strict statutory rules that she needs to follow, and she has to follow those very strict statutes.
Then something.
We can send out a draft to anybody, but it's not meaningful because it's not an official notice to an elected official.
This is a question that should be posed to the Secretary of State. The turnaround time to ask the question or the scenario and get an answer back should be very quickly from that office.
He's going to get the same question from 200 plus towns.
260.
Well, they would have already the answer.
Yeah, but that's not necessarily true because a lot of towns are not holding their elections that late. We put our election pretty late. And a lot of towns have open town meetings as well.
Right.
So
yeah.
The election does not affect an open town meeting. The election only affects us because we are a representative town meeting. That's what makes us a bit different.
And town meeting members have to get a legal notice prior to the warrant of the place and time of town meeting. So you've got to have it's either got to be before the election or after the election. At that point, when we did the election, there was no thing of town meeting changing at that point.
That's true. It was the 13th. I mean, the 2nd, I'm sorry.
Second, right.
I give up.
Well,
do you care if you have a town meeting on a Monday instead of a Tuesday?
How about a Saturday? How about the 20th? On the 20th.
20th. That makes sense too.
I mean, there's nothing in the charter that says that, you can postpone, you can open whatever.
I think the 20th makes a lot more sense than if you have the election on the 23rd, it makes the 30th impossible. So the 20th makes sense.
Yes.
That's still if we have a meeting. And then again, by June 1st, things could have changed. It could be new acts passed by the legislature that gives us more leverage.
Mr. Chairman,
July.
I make a proposal that we voted to cancel the 2nd and we table this discussion until June 1st.
Is that enough time, Lynn?
You already said
Yes.
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 Because if is going to the 22nd, it has to go out around June 9th or 10th.
So let's
table the discussion, and we'll know more from the governor by then, as the state house as well.
But let's
Even if we have it on the 20th, it's still got to go out the 9th or the 10th.
Right.
Well, let's look
If
into
everything is prepared. If everything's prepared and we know by June 1st, I've got enough time to copy and have everything ready.
It'll be fine.
So whatever's ready can be copied and ready. So if
All right.
Schedule A is all done, I can start copying it and have everything prepared.
We'll put the stamps on for you. We'll help you.
David, you mentioned the school. Are the schools going to allow us to use their building if they've got the schools closed? Somebody should ask them that question, just so we're prepared.
I'll inquire if the schools can be available.
So then you're going to have janitors.
Right, we always have to.
Right.
We're going to have it at the stadium.
Outdoors.
I mean, the school's closed and we're using them for polling places, so I don't see why we wouldn't use it for town meeting.
In the stands. On both sides.
Yeah, they're using it for polling, so that's a good question, though, Anthony.
All right, so we're going to hold off till our next meeting.
June 1st.
And look at the 20th, possibly. Possible. All right. Is that good with everyone?
Hell yes.
Lynn?
Yep.
Good with you? More important. And
Yep.
Anthony? Anthony, you're good?
Yep.
All right. All right, thank you.
Just to be clear, I don't know if you voted. Yeah, you need to do a formal vote to.
No, that's what I was going to do. So we need a motion in a second.
We already voted to cancel the town meeting to.
We did that already. We already canceled the town meeting.
No, there's no need to make any motion to schedule a town meeting until we discuss it on June 1st.
Right.
That's just a discussion.
That was a proposal. It's not a motion.
All right.
It's just a discussion. That's what we're going to talk about it. So
everyone's fine with that, so we'll move forward then. We don't need a vote. We've already voted to postpone.
I'm begging you to move forward on this.
Stan, I'm sorry, but do a roll call vote, please.
For what?
To
Or postponement.
They already voted to postpone.
We already did it.
We already did.
Did that.
They did a roll call vote to postpone. They're not picking a new date, so they're not going to vote for a new date to cover.
We already did vote on the cancellation.
Did you do a roll call though?
Yes.
Yes.
You want us to do it again? Should we do it again?
Yeah, just to be on the safe side.
Okay.
I don't think you need to. I think it was pretty.
We already
clear.
did a roll call vote.
Enough already. We got a long way to go here.
So,
Double indemnity.
One other item, you currently have a select board meeting scheduled for May 26th. It was decided at that time when we did the schedule that if there was no meeting on new town meeting, that you would move that May 26th meeting to June 1st. So you might want to just take a vote to change the meeting from May 26th to June 1st.
So moved.
So we're going to change the select board meeting from May 22nd to June 1st.
26th.
26th.
26. Mr. Tattlebaum.
Yes.
Mr. Gracie.
Yes.
Mr. McDonald.
Yes.
Mr. Herron.
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson, yes. A unanimous vote. Thank you.
Does anybody feel like drinking heavily besides me?
I'm exhausted.
What is it? It's empty, Sean. All right, thank you again. It's tedious to say the least, honestly. But all right, so we have a COVID-19 update. The McGinnis.
We have the annual town meeting warrant review.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Pardon. Okay, I'm rushing. All right, let's annual town meeting warrant review.
Portuguese and Irish. I'm not Russian.
Excuse me, Sean. Do you want me to stick around, or do you need me, or not?
No, I don't think so. Thank you.
Okay. Have a good night, you guys.
I like looking
Thanks,
at
Ed.
you, Anthony.
Thanks a lot.
You can even put a tie in for the first time in 2 months.
You can take your tie off now, Anthony.
All right. Goodbye.
All right, let's get into this.
Okay,
So,
good night.
With your help,
Thank you.
the annual town meeting warrant article review and approval.
Sorry.
So first up is the spring special town meeting. Article 1, Community Preservation Committee, FY 2020 Historic Preservation Reserve. And Article 2, transfer from Waterways Management Enterprise Fund to the General Fund. You have to have a motion to accept in a second, right?
Excuse me.
Yes.
Can't we just ask if there's are there any of the articles that people are not going to vote for, and then just deal with those?
It's fine with me. We've always done it this way before, but I don't have a problem with it as long as everyone else agrees with it.
Make a motion that we approve, that we recommend Articles 1 and 2 of the special town meeting.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve in a second. Mr. Tattlebaum?
Yes.
Mr. Gracie?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Herron?
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson, yes. We approve the spring special town meeting. Articles 1 and 2. Okay. Now we're into the spring special town meeting, more or less there might be summer town meeting.
Annual town meeting.
Annual town meeting.
Make a motion that we recommend Articles 1 through 8. I mean 1 through 7.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion to recommend Articles 1 through 7 and a second. Mr. Tattlebaum?
Yes.
Mr. Gracie?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Herron?
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson, yes.
Make a motion that we recommend Articles 8 through 16.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to agree with to vote in favor of Articles 8 through 16.
16, yes.
I'm sorry.
16, yes.
Yes, 8 through 16. Mr. Tattlebaum.
Yes.
Mr. Gracie.
Yes.
Mr. McDonald.
Yes.
Mr. Herron.
yes here, but I'm going to vote against the position at town meeting with Mr. Garvin.
Okay, thank you. But you're saying yes now?
I'm saying yes now, but
Okay, Mr. Mickelson, yes. Unanimous. All right.
Make a motion that we recommend Articles 18 through 21.
Does that leave out the zoning change?
The petition, resident petition.
That leaves that out, right?
Yes.
Okay, then I'll second your motion.
I'd like just to have a, consider voting on the marijuana separately to make sure that if there's any dissent or not, it would be voted. I think people should probably vote on this one separately.
All right, make a motion. I withdraw my motion. Make a motion that we recommend Articles 18, 19, and 20.
Good, thank you. Second.
18 through 20, is that correct?
Yes.
So we have a second motion to recommend and a second Articles 18 through 20. Mr. Tattlebaum?
Yes.
Mr. Gracie?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Herron? Mr.
Yes.
Mickelson? Yes. Yes. Okay.
All right, so that leaves Articles 8, 17, 21, and 22.
8, 17, 21, and 22, right? Okay. So let's talk about 8. Schedule A, FY 2021 budget appropriation.
I'll make a motion that we recommend it as submitted by the Finance Committee.
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a recommendation.
Question?
Sorry, Mr. Gracie.
Yeah, just to be clear, the youth advocate is not funded, correct?
It is funded. They
But it's
voted
not
5
filled.
to 3 to fund it.
I'm sorry,
Yes.
I missed that.
It's
No,
funded, but it's not filled.
They
So
voted not to fill it, correct? But they did fund it. They offered.
They had a 5-3 vote. 3 people voted against the position. So it passed 5-3 to keep the position, but it's not filled.
It's not
The way
funded.
I understand it.
It's not funded.
the salary and the expenses are in the Schedule A. They're included.
Right.
So it's funded.
The 3 people voted against it, but 5 voted for it to end. But it's an unfilled position.
Correct.
But
I don't know why we're funding it, given that we're going to need money for other things.
I thought we used it part of our negotiation saying we weren't funding it because we knew we needed the money.
Yeah, I
discussion
thought
we-
it was funded. That's correct.
Yes, we were told we were not funding it because I remember that discussion.
we were told what?
We were told that we were given a justification about, Sean gave us a justification of some of his numbers showing that we could not fund that position. Remember that, Frank?
I agree.
So, well, I'm voting no on 8.
But you won't have to vote no if it's not funded.
Correct.
I agree with you.
Okay, so
Clarification?
so Article 8 pertains to also the funding that the youth advocate. And we have 2 members so far of the board that does not will not vote in favor of funding that position, that job.
Yeah, we know we're going to have to make cuts, and as I said earlier, anything that's not filled now should be left off.
So do we have the authority to take it out?
Yes, you do. Yes. So you can vote.
I know the answer is yes, but I just wanted to hear it from you.
Yes.
So somebody want to make a motion so we can move forward to either move forward now or
I
town
need
meeting?
I need some clarification here.
Well, we can vote. A member of the board in a second can vote to take that youth advocate out of, just take it out of section Article 8.
Well,
Not-
before I'd like some clarification.
I can provide some clarification on the Finance Committee. Their vote was to not fill the position. They thought this was the select board's decision to fill the position, but they thought they should keep the position funded in the budget until the select board made a decision. That was my understanding of their rationale. And some members disagreed. They thought it should be removed. So that's why they left the salary and expense line item in there, but they did not recommend filling it because of the hiring freeze, because the position, the select board was ultimately responsible for deciding on that position.
But if we leave it in, again, that ties up money we know we're going to need for other things.
I could be the deciding vote, so I'm just going to make just a little clarification. And I'm going to listen to Mr. McDonald's comment before. I think we should wait for town meeting and let them decide on whether the youth advocate stays or it doesn't stay. Mr. McDonald.
Just a quick clarification. Sean, when you presented the steelworkers contract, that was ratified by us in open session, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I just want to make sure. The position of the youth advocate, was that funded in the contract, or was that a zero line item in the contract for the,
When I calculate, for the contract purposes, in their contract, no, I had zero. So I had an FY19 salary and then nothing for 20 through 22.
Right.
That's the way I remember.
I do too.
So we approved the contract with the steelworkers with zero money for the youth advocate.
Yeah, correct.
All right, I withdraw my motion.
Then I'll make a motion that we withdraw the position.
Withdraw the funding for the position.
Funding for the position.
I'll second that.
And then one item to discuss is there was discussion with the finance committee. Do you want there's a salary line item and an expenses line item. And I think the salary is 71. I don't know it offhand. And the expenses were like 2,500. So
Wouldn't it both, one would go with the other?
No.
Well, not always. Not if you wanted the youth commission to have access to those funds for purposes.
I don't. $2,500 is not going to do any kind of damage.
Right.
And if there's something that has to be done with the youth commission during that time, then I don't have a problem with them accessing, $2,500 for whatever materials they need.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to.
I need some clarification. Sean McDonald, you withdrew, could you be a little more clear? You withdrew your motion, which was?
Which it was just to recommend the entire budget, the entire Article 8.
Which included the.
As submitted by the Finance Committee. So I'm withdrawing that motion.
Mr. Gracie.
Okay.
Yeah, I want some clarification from John about whether the $2,500 can stay there or not, because I would be willing to allow it to stay as long as the salary is removed.
Well, John's motion was to not fund the salary position.
Yeah.
Right, John?
Yes.
Had nothing to do with the expenses.
I think we probably should remove the expenses also. Who's going to spend them if that position's not filled?
The
They'll
youth
have a youth
commission?
commission.
Well, you have a commission.
But what would the commission spend money on?
I suppose they get to post for the job or something, which is not likely.
They did some things around the holidays, I seem to recall, where they would purchase baskets and gift cards.
Okay.
All right, I'll let that stay.
Can you just double check the expense amount, Greg? Greg, is it 2,500 or 25,000?
Oh no, it's 2,500.
2,500. Okay. Somebody just texted me that it was 25,000. I just wanted.
That's for the
2,500, not 25,000.
Okay, thank you.
More bad information.
No, just somebody curious. That's all.
Okay, so let me be clear. So the motion that John made and I seconded was to remove the salary portion of that, but leave the $2,500. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
then I'm good.
So if I support that vote now that on this motion, I am telling town meeting that that although it was put on the budget originally, the select board supports eliminating the position.
Yes.
Eliminating the salary for the position.
Yeah.
Eliminating the position.
Salary.
No, because it still has expenses next to it. So we're not eliminating the position, we're eliminating the salary for the position.
You're eliminating the position for this year because you can't pay anybody if you're not going to pay no salary.
Well, that's right. But you say eliminate the position, it sounds like you're doing away with it forever. And that's not what we're doing.
What are you doing?
Mr. McDonald.
You're eliminating for this year.
You are zeroing the budget for the FY21 to zero for the position. The position's still there on the books.
Right.
There's no funding for the position.
I'm going to vote against that because I feel the town meeting should have total flexibility to accept it or not and let them decide. I should not be a one to decide because it's a very controversial issue. And if we vote against it, then we're giving a message that doesn't give an objective view for the town meeting to discuss it and let the majority rule.
Okay, well, so before you say that, you can vote too. No, we need to vote. We've got a motion to remove the salary, less the 2,500 for the youth advocate. Mr. McDonald.
Yes.
Mr. Gracie.
Yes.
Mr. Herron.
Yes.
Mr. Tattlebaum.
No.
Mr. Mickelson, no. It passes 3-2 to remove the salary for the youth advocate and leaving $2,500 in the account to let the youth commission use it as they see needed. So, Article 8 we can vote on now. Less that, yes.
Make a motion that we recommend Article 8 as done by us.
It's modified.
Yeah.
Modified. Yeah.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion to recommend Article 8 as it's been modified by the board just now. All those, I'm sorry, Mr. Tattlebaum.
Yes.
Mr. Gracie.
Yes.
Mr. McDonald.
Yes.
Mr. Herron. It's Article 8, less the.
I know. Just yes.
Okay, and Mr. Gracie. I'm sorry.
It's you.
Yeah, it's me. Yeah. Hey,
Frank
listen,
still only can vote
getting
once.
very, very tiresome. So
I'm in the other box down the corner.
thank you. All right, next.
That would be Article 17.
Article 17. And 17, collective bargaining agreement, Brotherhood.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion to approve and
Or
a
to
second
recommend, I'm sorry.
motion to recommend Article 17 and a second. Mr. Tattlebaum,
Yes.
Mr. Gracie,
No.
Mr. McDonald,
Yes.
Mr. Herron,
No.
Mr. Mickelson, yes. Passes 3-2.
Article 21.
We recommend. What's next?
21.
21. Zoning bylaw expanse of certain recreational marijuana operations into general business districts.
Do we have a question? Greg or Sean, can you give us the dissenting opinion from the Finance Committee? It was 7-2, or just a flavor of why they voted against it?
It's right here.
They have, what did I do it? 1 second.
Sorry to put you on the spot there, but
That's
Article 21, 7-2. The article adds marijuana cultivating and marijuana product manufacturing to general business district. The majority of the finance committee feels that there are enough controls granted by the planning board to ensure the safety and security of the town residents.
Right.
There was no dissenting opinion.
That wasn't my question.
Well, that's was their rationale.
No, I'm asking the discussion at the meeting before it came up. What was can you give me an indication of what the minus 2 votes are all about? Why would they be against it? Do you recall?
I don't recall offhand. Greg, do you recall?
I think they were arguing that the district, just a year before, they voted for the Fonts Corner district, and the argument was to give an opportunity to allow that. Okay. So why are we changing our vote?
Okay. So it's a similar argument as last year then.
Give the Fonts, to give Fonts Corner an opportunity to prove it. So
okay, good. Thank you.
Hopefully, no one has any amendments.
Sure.
All right. So, do we need a recommendation in a second?
Move to recommend.
Second.
We have a recommendation and a second to recommend Article 21. Mr. Tattlebaum.
Yes.
Gracie.
Yes.
Mr. McDonald.
Yes.
Mr. Herron.
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson, while always yes on this article. Passes unanimously.
Article 22. Resident petition to rezone single residence to general business.
I thought that article was being withdrawn.
That's what my understanding is. Yes, I talked to the town clerk on Friday, and she told me as of Friday they had not gotten the appropriate paperwork, but that she was told they were going to be in the process of withdrawing it.
Well, it's right in front of us, so motion to not recommend.
Second.
We have a motion to not recommend and a second. Article 22. Mr. Tattlebaum?
Yes.
Mr. Gracie?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Herron?
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson, by all means, yes. Okay. I think does that conclude our article?
At a later date, the board will vote to finalize and sign the warrant.
Yep.
Why can't we do that now?
Because
now you can sign it.
We don't have the date, the location, or the time set.
Oh, all right.
Go back about 20 minutes.
So can we can wait until our meeting in June?
So once now you've reviewed it and it's ready to go, you can just vote to sign the warrant.
Okay.
Once the date's been selected and the location.
Okay. Phew.
Pulling teeth.
It's worse than
I can't wait to do a meeting for town meeting.
like this, yeah. It'll be 4 days. Pack your bags.
There's only so many screens that Zoom can hold.
They'll have the election while we're finishing up town meeting.
It'll be interesting.
I mean, I dread to see town meeting on Zoom because there's only so many squares that because with our meeting with the finance committee, I don't know if anybody noticed it, but did you see the tab on the right-hand side that said page 1 of 2?
Right.
I had 1 of 3. I had 3 screens.
Yeah, I had 2 also. Yeah. So, it's interesting. If we all remember, this is about the vote at town meeting. If you remember, we had a company that came before us that wanted to sell the town voting machines. So the votes would come up on the screen.
It was electronic
Everybody's
voting.
vote would be on the screen, and it wasn't just a show of hands. So I wonder if we could find that company again, or a similar company that we could utilize their services.
We looked into that, but it only works on site. So everyone needs to be on site.
That's too bad. Yes. That's too bad because that would be interesting to see that in working.
Yeah, if we go along the cords for the gizmos, we could all stand outside.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was an interesting thought, but all right. So the COVID-19 update.
Yes, so we were still in the state of emergency. I don't know, the governor had a conference today, his daily conference. He talked about a 4-step phased plan to come back. There was not a lot of detail. So we're still waiting. We're a bit, like, carrying on business as usual. We're meeting and making some plans to have in place if and when town hall does open for the public. We've started to purchase some plexiglass screens. We're working on some tape for the hallways to promote social distancing. The tentative plan right now is when we do reopen, depending on what the governor says, is really to have one member of the public in an office at a time. We're able to accommodate that here with the counter space, but we're trying to prepare as best we can without really knowing, what the plan is in the future. So hopefully by the 18th we have more information, but until then, we meet regularly. We have discussions. We have the COVID incident response team that meets every Friday. So we are in constant communication and just waiting it out at this point.
I had a conversation just prior to the meeting tonight with Chris Michaud, and he was out and about with a few of the staff at various big boxes, and he was absolutely thrilled to death. The social distancing and the amount of people that had masks were impressive. Maybe 98%, and maybe those 2% had some medical issues why they couldn't wear it. But he was thrilled, and I'm glad to hear that. And thank you, the residents of Dartmouth. Anybody else?
Keep it up.
Thank you. Mr. Gracie.
Yeah, at the last meeting, we never really resolved the issue about food handlers wearing masks. With all the stuff that's put out by the state and everything else, nothing specifically addresses food handlers. So I would still like us to take a position that food handlers should wear masks, because I was at another place which was not on the previous list within the last few days, and there was a guy at the grill cooking meat for a sandwich, and he had a mask on, but he had it over his chin. It wasn't on his mouth or his nose. So I think we need to make a statement on that so that we can at least, I'm not talking about any enforcement or anything else at this point. So that we can just tell people that the town select board has voted to require food handlers wear a mask, because they may be 6 feet away from the customer, but they're not 6 feet away from the food.
Frank, I have to disagree with you, because I think we made it pretty clear. Food handlers are in a public place serving the public. They're part of the public there. No matter what their job is, they need to have a mask on, period.
Right.
Period.
What harm does it do to explicitly state that?
All employees, all customers in any retail establishment has to have a mask on, period.
Yeah, you're talking about common sense. We know how common it is.
No, I how more clear can you be?
But
I would have to say, by the way, I've been around town a lot this week, and I have to agree that the people are really impressive. There's how well they're following the rules. Really impressive.
Some are, but not all. That's the whole point.
I didn't say all.
I know. I'm saying all should do it.
You're asking for something that's something that's not going to happen because it's unenforceable. So some
Why don't you tell the store manager, Frank, when you see him?
Because if we made a statement that we wanted it done, I would gladly talk to the store manager and tell him that.
We did. Make a motion and get a second, and we'll do it.
I can just add, the governor's order specifies that in retail establishments, all the employees need to have masks on. So maybe the board can make a recommendation that business owners review that and confirm that their staff are wearing masks as per the governor's order.
Make a motion, Frank.
I will make that motion.
Per the governor's orders, correct?
Correct.
We have a second?
Yes.
Second.
We have a second, Mr. Tattlebaum.
It's the second time we did it.
Yeah. Mr. Tattlebaum?
Yes.
Mr. Gracie?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Herron?
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson, yes. Please continue to impress us by doing what's right, and for yourself and for your neighbors and your family.
What kind of sandwich was it, Frank?
I think it was a steak sub.
Is there
a steak snub with sneeze and snot in it?
Oh,
Now it's, all right, come on, time's getting on here. Gonna be like a planning board meeting.
We got another 2 hours for that.
Oh, yeah.
Just,
all right.
Mr. Chairman, just
Yes,
a
sir.
quick thing. Food retailers are covered under the governor's order. So what this is just a reminder from the select board for all food retail establishments to revisit the governor's orders and to make sure that their employees are, that their establishment is following the governor's order.
Okay, thank you. This might be something that we will have in the future as a requirement, no matter what, even out of the pandemic. You never know. You never know. People might insist on it, but we'll move on. So next is the Paydarn Bridge, no fishing signs. In this, we had a letter from the Board of Health, Town Council, Department on Public Works, and the Harbor Master. They were all in on this letter, and there it is. No fishing sign. No fishing on bridge and causeway, 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. until further notice, per order of the Dartmouth Select Board. The signs are done already?
No, they've drafted the sign. They're waiting for the approval. I'll just give some background. With this COVID and sheltering situation, there's been an increase in pedestrian and bicycle traffic on the causeway. And there's some concern about the safety of those bicyclists and walkers while the fishermen are on the bridge. So we thought it would best to, during daylight hours, not allow any fishing on the bridge, and after between 9 p.m. and 6 a.m. fishing would be allowed.
Mr. McDonald.
Although I don't have a problem with this right now, this has always been a problem no matter what. I mean, this has nothing, just because we're in this pandemic doesn't mean that this is a situation that's been going on for years and years and years. We've always gotten complaints of people fishing during the day as people walking by, driving by, bicycling by, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I understand the temporary ban. I don't have a problem with a temporary ban, but somehow the town has to address this on a more permanent basis, because this is a situation that has consistently come up year after year, time after time. So on a temporary basis, I don't have a problem with it, but this needs to be addressed.
Well, it needs to be, the planning board needs to handle it. Mr. Gracie.
Yeah, I agree with what Sean just said. In addition, we've always had a problem with people filleting their fish and leaving fish guts all over the place on the bridge.
Agreed.
I'm not saying this to be snarky or anything for a change, but a sign just in English is not going to do the trick.
I agree with both people. I think and I'll go with the temporary ban, but the fishing pier will solve some of these issues.
Yeah, it will, but we got a long way to go to get that fishing pier, John.
In the meantime,
I fully understand, and that's why I'm in favor of the temporary.
Yeah, I am too.
Right now.
I am too. I am 100% in favor of that fishing pier.
I mean, the complaints over the years have always been the fish guts on the sidewalk, the fish guts on the railing, people using the railing to cut the fish and cut their bait. So there's always marks on the railing.
Right.
People walking by, they can't walk by because chairs, buckets, fishing rods, so they have to go out in the street.
Knives.
Bicyclists driving by and getting hooked by a fisherman as they cast backwards. Cars doing the same thing. I remember I saw a car driving by and the fisherman went back and he got hooked on the car and took the rod with him. So I mean, this is like, this is not something new. It's something that's been going on. I'm almost positive when Roger Tugas sat with Jimmy Almeida and Ray Peck, I'm sure they were hearing about complaints about it back then too.
Well, that was before I was born.
Oh yeah, right, sure.
Yeah. Everything was still in black and white.
Question: Are we condoning overnight fishing in the dock by having these hours this way?
Yeah, it sounds like we are.
Pretty dangerous.
Dangerous?
No, there's lights in the area where they fish.
Yeah, but there is, in most cases, no one's walking in the dock over the bridge.
And
Is that what they recommended? Did they recommend allow fishing overnight?
No, that's not in, they did not.
Well, they are by default because it doesn't say you
Well,
can't.
at this point now, it says 6 a.m. to 9 p.m., 7 days a week. It doesn't say how many days, so I would presume it's 7 days a week.
They're there now after 9 o'clock. Drive by.
I'm sure they are.
They're there.
Yeah.
Well,
they are.
Who wrote this? Who's responsible for the sign?
We worked with the Department of Public Works to draft the sign.
It's coming from DPW?
Well, I
they're
mean,
drafting the sign. They're getting the sign.
No, who is responsible for the idea of the sign and banning fishing? Is that coming from Waterways?
COVID-19 response team.
No, but who recommended we not have fishing? The Waterways or the DPW?
No, so it says here, I don't know, let me see. So Sean, who was involved in this memorandum to you?
It came up in our COVID response meeting.
Okay, so this came up from the.
I'm not quite sure. I can't remember who brought it up exactly, but it was brought up to my attention. We discussed the fishing.
Yep.
I'm sure the harbor master was part of it. I don't want to say who. I'm not really sure, but the group.
I just ask: is it their intent to allow midnight fishing, or they just think this is going to stop it? Period.
Yes, I think the goal was not to stop the fishing. That's another discussion that the select board can have if they just want to prohibit it completely.
No, temporarily.
Right.
Do they really want to allow people to fish all night in the dock, or they didn't? Was that what was their intention?
I think the intention was that maintaining the safety of the pedestrians and bicyclists during the day. That's the intention of this letter. If you read it, it's really just a safety issue. So it's not a fishing justification issue or permission issue. It's a safety issue for the increased.
I understand that.
They fish now. There's 24-hour fishing on that causeway now.
Okay. So
no restrictions at all.
Okay, right. So this is to protect the pedestrians during the day.
During the day.
Okay. Is that the intention?
Yes.
Yeah, and I would presume there are going to be an awful lot more people walking that bridge in the causeway during the day than at night. I'm sure of that.
And that's why it came up. That's what's happening.
Mr. Gracie.
Yeah, I'm okay with the sign, but I would like to know who's going to enforce this. Are the police going to enforce this?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve the signs.
Second.
We have a motion to approve the sign, no fishing on bridge and causeway, 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. until further notice, per order, Dartmouth Select Board. We have a motion and a second. Mr. McDonald.
Yes.
Mr. Gracie.
Yes.
Mr. Tattlebaum.
Yes, I got 25 minutes for this meeting. I'm going to go fishing at 9 o'clock, so I can say yes.
Yeah.
Mr. Herron.
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson, yes.
If you catch us to talk in the dock, you get a trophy.
Catch a fish
Look
in
at
the dock, you
someone's
get a
face
trophy.
through the window.
You know, if we had a fishing pier, they'll have lights. They could fish 24 hours a day. How's that? Go fishing pier. All right. The Joint Transportation Planning Group, JTPG Municipal Representative Appointment. Mr. Hickox, I believe, is the appointment. Is that correct?
Correct. This is the annual appointment. He just needs to be reappointed.
So we need a
Make a motion. We appoint David Hickox to the Joint Transportation Planning Group as our municipal representative appointment, and the alternate would be Tim Barber from the DPW also.
Second.
And we have a motion to appoint and a second, Mr. Hickox and Tim Barber as an alternate to the JTPG. Mr. Tattlebaum.
Yes.
Mr. Gracie.
Yes.
Mr. McDonald.
Yes.
Mr. Herron, Mr. Mickelson, yes, they're appointed.
One thing that the form says to be signed by the chair of the select board. I don't know if you want to make another vote that for me to sign for the chair, or
Want me to come by and sign it tomorrow?
that's fine. Sure.
All right, I'll come by and sign it tomorrow.
Okay.
Constables Judge Berraby and Louis Morales Reese appointment, correction to a 3-year appointment to expire on 6/30/22. You explain the reason why we're doing this now. Basically, it's only 2 years.
Yes. So last year when we did the appointment, we appointed them for 1 year, mistakenly. That's when Christine was out and Melanie was new. And so we only appointed them for 1 year. So we're trying to get everyone on a 3-year appointment.
Right. So,
Right, so the 1 year expires this year.
Yes.
Right.
I make a motion that we extend the appointments of George Barabee and Luis Morales Reyes as constables until June 30th, 2022.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to basically reappoint constables George Barabee and Luis Morales Reyes.
Extend the appointment.
Extend the appointment. Yeah, all right, excuse me. Quiet, Frank. Extend the appointment to 6:30.
I'm having a ball. I don't know about you guys, but I'm having a ball.
Mr. Tattelbaum?
Yes.
It must be something in your cigar, Mr.
Oh,
Gracie.
that cigar's doing it for sure.
Mr. Gracie, can you tell? Mr.
I got a sample from a Puffco.
Call my name, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. McDonald.
Yes.
Yes. And Mr. Herron?
Yes.
Yeah, they do deliver.
I heard the knock on the door, Frank.
Yeah.
That's your weekly marijuana delivery.
Stop talking about Greg, he's back.
EMS Week Proclamation.
This is a effort that's been moved that is looking to show appreciation for the workers in the healthcare industry during this pandemic. And they're looking to designate the week of May 17th to the 23rd, 2020 as Emergency Medical Services Week. And just to show some appreciation for the healthcare workers that are their first line of defense out there.
So moved.
Nice. Do we need to sign this? Is that correct, Mr. McGinnis?
No, you just really need to kind of make the proclamation that
that's great.
May
Let's
17th
do
is
that
right
for
there.
sure.
Yeah. Mr. McGinnis can sign it because it just says name and title of official.
Right.
So
Yes.
Fine. We don't need a vote, correct?
yes, we do.
Yes, you do have to take a vote to
So,
That's why I made a motion.
proclaim it.
yeah, but we don't have a second yet. Come on. Mr. McDonald.
I made the motion.
I'll second it then.
Yeah, so you didn't even, okay.
I think I did, but it's okay.
You're all a little punch drunk, I think. So Mr.
Yeah.
McDonald made the motion. Mr. Gracie seconded it.
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
Tattlebaum.
Yes.
Mr.
Definitely.
Gracie.
Yes.
Mr. McDonald.
Yes.
Mr. Herron.
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson, yes. You can sign it. And,
Telling you, town meeting by this method would be really great.
well, this is just well,
You have 73
We had-
screens to scroll.
we had some people that questioned our vote by raising our hands. So I thought I'd do the roll call. And I
No,
know-
that's the way. That's the way it should be. I made the comment.
Right.
Brian Cruz was the one that sent out the information that said before we even did this, said that all votes should have to be roll call. The
Well-
first vote we took, I said roll call, and you said let's just do it by hand. So
because Mr. McGinnis and Mr. Savastano both agreed that the hand vote was legal.
they need to talk to Brian.
All right. Well, whatever. If you don't mind
Roll call is fine.
if you don't mind the roll call, please don't laugh about
Working
it.
great.
All right.
Yeah,
So
terrific.
we got a common Vic's renewal from Marisol's Cafe, Rich Romero.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to renew the common Vic license for Marisol's. Mr. McDonald.
Even though I can't get my drink yet, yes.
Mr. McDonald said yes. Mr. Herron.
Yes.
Mr. Gracie.
Yes.
Mr. Tattlebaum.
Yes.
Yes, you sure? Mr. Mickelson, for sure, yes. All right, old business.
No new updates, but the fishing pier came up earlier, and Deb Wender, our director of development, contacts the Division of Marine Fisheries weekly to get a status. It's we're waiting on them to finalize it. So as soon as we hear back, we'll be before the board.
revised minutes from April 7th. I think Mr. Tattlebaum wanted to do that.
Yep.
April 7th, 2020.
Motion
Mr.
to
Tattlebaum,
approve.
you want to okay that?
Sure. Make a motion to approve.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion to approve in a second. The revised minutes of April 7th, 2020. April 20, and then we have April 27th, 2020 minutes to recommend to approve.
You have one motion on the floor right now, which is for the April 7th meeting. So take care of that, then we'll take care of the other one next.
Correct.
I thought you didn't you second it, Mr. Gracie?
Yes, but we haven't voted.
Well, Mr. Tattlebaum,
Yes, April 7th, yeah.
Mr. Gracie,
Yes.
Mr. McDonald, Mr.
Yes.
Harron,
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson, yes. April 27th, 2020.
Who's on first?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Well, it wouldn't be you, Frank, because you couldn't get to second.
No, I couldn't. I would drive there.
All right, you get a motion to approve,
Yes.
and we need a
And
second.
a second was made.
Okay, second by Mr. Gracie, was it?
Mr. Tattlebaum did it, but that's okay.
Okay, so Mr. Tattlebaum,
Yes.
Mr. Gracie,
Yes.
Mr. McDonald,
Yes.
Mr. Harron,
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson, yes on the April 27th minutes. So our next, before we adjourn, our next meeting is June 8th.
June 1st.
First.
June 1st, yeah.
Are we sticking with the 8th meeting as well?
It's up to the board.
Question is, do we need it? That's the question.
Well, we also, the 22nd's up in the air regarding the election.
Yes.
Why don't we leave it open till we hear back from the governor? Leave it on the agenda.
Okay. Okay.
So we're going to have, our next will be the June 1st.
June 1.
Okay. And we'll leave June 8th on the record for now. Motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion to adjourn in a second. Mr. Tattlebaum,
Yes.
Mr. Gracie,
Yes.
Mr. McDonald,
Yes.
Mr. Harron,
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson, yes. Meeting is adjourned.
Keep up.